Hello, internet friends, and welcome to episode number 149 of FinalBossTV, your WoW and Game Rating Show. Today is episode number 149 for Legion's Mistweaver Monks. It's taken us a while to get here. That's because it takes about 10 months or so to do a full junket, and it's going to take even longer in the future. If you've been living under a rock, my name's Adam K.A.K. Bay, and I host this little shindig, and for a long time you've all have asked for every single episode, every spec to be its own entity. And we'll do that. After the first pass is done, only a few episodes left. We have Method's World First Kill Jaden interview coming up next Sunday. But after that, we have Enhancement Shaman, and then we have Brewmaster Monk to sort of tail off the end with one of the most OP tanks that we've had this whole expansion. And then we're going to take a little bit of a break, but then after that, every spec will be separate. So Mage, Hunter, Rogue, and Warlock are up first, of course. They'll be sprinkled, you know, one after another, but each spec gets one show. So if you thought it took a while to get through all the specs before, strap in, because you've asked for it, and it's going to happen. But today's episode, thank you very much, of course, everyone that makes the show keep happening over on Patreon. I really appreciate all the support that this show has grown over the past little while in Legion. But big shout out, of course, to the assistant producers of the show, Truffles, Ludovicus, Tazlin, R4, Delthier, Quen, and Vrez. Thank you both all for your ridiculous support. And of course, everyone else over there that is taking part in more podcasts. If you want more of the show and sort of see like where the show gets built from and the meet and greets, the behind the scenes podcasts are available on Patreon. There are 22 at the moment, unless I mistagged one. There should be 23. Maybe I goofed somewhere. You can also follow along with the show notes. There's also voting for the sort of subscriber streams I do called Control Bay for a Day. But these are all almost about an hour long, 45 minutes to an hour or so, unless you want to go back and find the one where Preacher and I talked about Legion for like 2 hours. But just grab the Patreon BTS tag if you want to support the show. And this is a pretty good BTS for this show right here. I'm just saying. It swayed me to do a 3-guest show, so check that out if you'd like. But the 3-guest show exists today. And hopefully not, and learning from past mistakes. We have 3 guests on the show. There's Garg. Garg, hello. Hello, sir. Hello.
Hello. How are you? I'm
ready to talk about Resto Shamans. Are you?
I'm more excited to talk about Holy Priests.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, that's fine too, I suppose. They're not very misty though, so you know. Yeah, it's fine. But I thought you were going to talk about spreading in sheets today. I thought that's what you're doing. Really good at laundry? Is that what?
Yes. Oh. Laundry is one of my top jobs.
Oh, okay.
As well as putting math in the laundry.
Okay. Sounds good to me. Joining you apparently is the name that I didn't know how to pronounce at first, but it's Dhaubbs or Dhaubbs. Hello, sir. Welcome. The voice of Discord. I mean.
Hey, how's it going?
You're here to make sure that Garg isn't wrong, is that right? Or is he here to make sure you're not wrong? What's the relationship there?
Probably both. I mean, Garg's wrong about, I don't know, 80% of the time, so I'll be there to really keep him in line, you know?
Okay. Starting off strong.
Yep. Okay. And then to answer at least 3 questions this show, there's Harl. Hi, Harl.
Hi, friends. Let's talk about some Mythic Plus stat weights.
Okay. Well, that's only one of your questions, okay? You have 2 others that we'll find at some point. But hopefully you can not be the total chopped liver on this show. What are you doing here anyway? What are you here to talk about again?
I'm here to correct Dhaubbs. That's it.
Okay. That makes sense. That's fair. But as you all now notice, all of my guests are off camera today. That's because we're also the first episode I've ever hosted and done completely on Discord. So that's why the audio will sound so much better. And there's no background static. But that's because they're all way too pretty to be on the show. But if you need visual stimuli for them, other than they're all male blood elves, because not one of you could have been like a female or something. All male blood elves. Just go.
We all race changed just for this. Actually, I'm going back troll.
Yeah. My transmog doesn't work on a female blood elf. It looks terrible.
Oh, probably the first time I've ever heard of a transmog not working on a female character, other than like a female panda. They have weird. I deal with that all the time. But what I was gonna say is make sure you go check out, not sponsored, but go check out Dream Daddy. Grab the key art for your particular Dream Daddy. Put some misty effects around them, Mistweaver style, and then just put one of their voices to each of them, and then pick whichever one you'd like. But
oh hi, it's me, Thick Dad.
Exactly. I'm gonna go back around the table here real quick, and what do you do for the Mistweaver community, and what have you put forth, and then we can plug some stuff after that. But I'm gonna go back over to Garg again. Garg, what do you do realistically, other than laundry?
Oh, I write and maintain the Peak of Serenity Monk, the Mistweaver side of all things Monk there. Well, not all things, most things. I also do the Teachings of the Red Crane Mistweaver spreadsheet, which just got a fairly substantial update this past week. It includes its own guide, which I think can be linked in chat.
Oh yeah, you probably should. You can link it, or I mean, I'm bringing up on screen right now. Of course, all the resources that you will see on the show will, of course, be in the YouTube description box if you're watching on YouTube, and if you're, of course, listening, if you're watching with your ears, listening to the audio-only version, you can go grab those, of course, at just peakofserenity.com.
Yeah, and I also maintain the Wowhead Mistweaver guide since Monkio's retirement.
Fair enough. And there's another guide that someone else does, but they're is there someone that you want? Who?
Yeah, Sups has Suplift is his old name. He has stubbornly kept the Icy Veins guide, but I will take it from him. I swear.
That's fair. In 8.0 maybe, or maybe I don't know, 7.3. Just take it from him right now. Just go tell him right now. Everyone in chat, just ping him in Discord or on Twitter. Just make it happen. Right now. That sounds like a lot of the spreadsheets. We're not talking about this right now. We'll go around the horn and we'll come back to this because chat was making fun of me and waiting for you to explain the spreadsheet to me. Even though I play a little Mistweaver Monk, it's like my second or third like baby alt. But she basically only fist weaves because it's the best way to play. If you were here for the pre-show, you know that's what Harl said. Mm-hmm. So, but. How about Dhaubbs? What do you do, sir? What do you contribute to the Mistweaver corner of the world of Warcraft?
So I'm pretty active on Peak. You can find me there at ungodly hours of the night and morning, answering questions, helping out beginners. And then other than that, I just I used to provide logs to Garg so he could create profiles for the sheets, but the new and improved sheet doesn't require a huge inundation of logs. It uses personal logs, so don't do that anymore.
So you just
so happy.
You just heal in Big Dumb Guild then, I guess. Okay.
Yeah. Shout outs to my guild, Big Dumb Guild, 7 and 9. We're getting there.
You're on the wall right now, so good luck with that. I'm on the first wall. I'm on Mistress right now, but like 25%, so should be dead tomorrow, hopefully. Gonna do some live show, and then Game of Thrones, and then kill a Naga tomorrow. It's gonna be a good couple of days.
Good luck. Have fun with Bufferfish.
Well, once we switched over to the first 3 groups matter, last 5 YOLO, it's totally fine. Because there was all this, like, we were looking at early kills, we're like, there's a lot of, like, micromanagement here, but it doesn't matter. So, just do whatever. So then, Harl, what do you do in the Mistweaver community? What do you put forth out there into the wild blue world of World of Warcraft? I guess Green, Mrs. Green.
I'm always active on Peak, trying to help people understand and tell them to read the guide. I'm there to discuss fist weaving. Oh. I'm there to discuss Mythic Plus, all of that, and then I raid occasionally. And we sometimes kill bosses. On
the Mythic Plus front, though, are you partaking in the first, like, the Mythic Plus challenge stuff that Blizzard's actually doing something for PvE?
Well, I would probably need to re-roll, but that's the idea. trying to get a 20 done at some point, see if it's possible.
Oh, is there? I don't even know. Is there some meta forming right now with like what healer actually can go to that? Or
I mean, you play Holy Pally or Resto Druid. That's pretty much it.
huh?
They're the ones that can survive.
Yeah. I guess some of the AoEs on 20 plus are just like, hey, here's 6 million damage. Oh, you're dead. Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, I've read like different parts of the scuttlebutt on like Twitter and maybe a little bit over on the official thread, which is just nasty about what's going on with that. I didn't know what's developing though, or where the keys are looking at, because they just nerfed a ton of Mythic Pluses on the other day on the hotfix. There's tons of nerf, mostly to Cathedral and Upper Kara. So it's weird they nerf all this stuff after announcing the Mythic Plus challenge.
Yeah, it's funny. I did a 18 Upper Kara on my Monk, which normally is atrociously awful, but it was easy. We two-chested it.
I've tried, I dabbled in some. I've done a 15 on easy affixes. I tried to do some Grievous affixes on my little baby Mistweaver. I think my highest was like 11 or a 12. That affix just sucks as a Mistweaver. I don't know how. Screw Grievous, man. Nope. So after that, let's bring up the spreadsheet then. And Garg, if you want to talk about like the two big resources that Mistweavers can sort of dig into here.
Oh, okay. Well, the spreadsheet, what it had been for a while since, I want to say, late February, is that it had been based off profiles from numerous kills in Heroic and Mythic Nighthold. And like that was all well and fine, but it wasn't really suited to everyone's specific circumstance. Because I think I had Vivify heavy, Essence Font heavy, because you could spam it out your ears before 725. But then, so since I want to say early April, I've been working on updates to have it work off player logs, and then this I also started working on this at the same time Anomaly was working on WoW Analyzer, having originally developed by Zero to Rescue for Holy Paladins in their spreadsheet, but Anomaly took a branch and started doing one for Mistweavers, and it's all part of the site. I think they have all healers now and some DPS. But now you take a log, comma-separated value data, CSV from Warcraft logs. You import that into the spreadsheet, and you also run that log through WoW Analyzer. And it brings you a whole bunch of data that you can then get weights for that specific circumstance. And it took a long time to make, and I'm so happy I finished it in time.
Yeah, I didn't think about this before the show. If one of you wants to like grab, I'd love to look at like an actual analyzer kickout right now. If you want to give me a link for one of those.
I already have that, believe it or not.
Oh, because the next thing we can talk about is the secondary stats scaling sheet.
Oh, man, I can't wait to give you my weights.
So like we have that, but I want to.
Let me bring this up because I did change it from when I gave it to you a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
What's on screen right now, hopefully there's no delay, but what's on screen right now is how much each stat contributes percentage-wise to each healing spell. So like a Fuse has Mastery, and this is like 6,600 rating to each, so it's evenly split. So Mastery is a 38% boost to a Fuse. But if I go ahead and switch it from percent to spell power percent, it'll then show how much actual spell power you're getting per spell from each stat.
Okay. A bit of it's cut off on the bottom here because the region is almost a little bit too. It just says like targets or mastery. It's just cutting off a little bit of the text. It's not important though.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is that the Essence Font, there's 4 categories, and that's how many effective casts you get off due to our mastery, because our mastery is special. Let me tell you something.
Well, well, I'm sure we'll talk about that after the mid-show break, but...
So there's 4 categories for Essence Font. It's how many casts of Mastery you can double dip on Essence Font targets. And so you really need 3 Mastery hits per Essence Font for Mastery to be good for the spell. Then you also run into the issue with Chi Burst and RJW, which make up a lot of our group healing. And that has no interaction with Mastery at all.
Right.
And with RJW making a huge comeback in 725, Mastery fell even deeper off the wayside.
Yeah, there's definitely a fall off there. Did you have that link for the analyzer too, so I can look at that? You can just drop that in.
I do.
Yeah, just drop that in Discord. I'll pop it up on screen. I just thought I should have one of these to look at this. Let me see here, because the difference is like that spreadsheet you put together, the secondary stats scaling sheet. Is that based on like a baseline monk or your stats, and then you kind of have to toggle through to like see and then kind of reference that information out to people, or because no one plugs their information into that sheet anywhere?
Correct. This was mostly for my own reference, as well as grabbing some screen caps for the 7.2.5 Peak of Serenity post.
Okay.
But if you go back to that sheet and you can go to the data tab at the bottom, it has all the math there, including the Manatee math, which is, I think I have it where you start off with Essence Font, then you use Manatee, then you use like 7 Vivify casts, and that's where all the mastery weight from it comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all assuming that you have, that they're all double mastery hits.
This is the one biggest thing. I brought this up on the show multiple times before, and there are a few in each sort of realm, every spec, every class sort of community that have really just created, I'm pretty sure, more tools in the last year, ever since like, middle-ish to end of Legion beta to now, with the onset of the communication growth with Discord and just the I would say the smoothing out of certain things in Legion, removal of some and the implication of others. But there's so many more tools that exist for every single spec across the board now, that all of these Google documents that I see here and there, and I still think the Windwalker one just blows my brain clear out of my ears. It's just so ridiculous, but these didn't exist before, and finding out how this all works from our perspective, right? Because we have to find things out because Blizzard does whatever they want to do, is really wild. It's crazy that people have figured all this stuff out.
Yeah, this is definitely a massive, like, I know this will sound a bit weird, but it's like a renaissance for theory crafting, with all the like the real time of Discord, so that you can like chat instantly instead of being like relegated to forums where you gotta wait and refresh pages and stuff.
It's really
like
cool. Oh, go ahead, Garg.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, you can get feedback instantly, like, oh, what do you guys think about this? And are you sure that this is how this works? Here's the math, and here's data about this.
It's really cool. When Legion started, I've been playing Mistweaver since the class came out because I hate myself. But it was really cool. I got really into Discord because I started Legion as a Resto Druid. That's what my guild needed. And I stumbled upon some Windwalker stuff, got the Peak Discord, went into Mistweaver because I still love the spec, and got super involved in the theory crafting community, even though I'm not the best at math. It's really exciting to see that whole resurgence.
Yeah, there's always an ebb and flow, and chat's making fun. Like, we have like 250 viewers, and like 12 of them are actually Mistweaver mains or something. But I mean, you can just go to Warcraft logs and look and find that there are probably thousands that actually log, so it's not a big deal. And you gotta remember that the population of people that actually log is very small in comparison to the overall community that plays. And there's always different community perspectives that come up, or different things that oh, this class is terrible, don't play it, they don't blah blah blah. But I mean, if you're not in like the top 15, 20 guilds in the world, you play whatever you want. You can play, you do what you want, have fun. So, all right. WoW Analyzer, this is Harl. This is your Mythic Demonic Inquisition kill. Just, I would assume, this week.
Yes. Please no flame.
Well, I mean, it's fine.
You ran out of mana without using a mana pot. Come on.
So this is what it kicks out for a WoW Analyzer part. So I don't know if you want to walk me through this, Harl, and just see. This is one of your 3 questions. So there you go. Walk me through this.
Yeah. So on the right side, you have the items, which is my 2 legendaries, Prioritization and Matthias. And, Matthias wasn't too great on this pull, but, whatever. Mindslaver doing 28k HPS, which is the highest I've ever had it do for me. We have the 2 and 4 piece for tier 20. I saved almost 3k MP5 from 2 piece, and 4 piece gave me about 2% HPS increase. So not too great, but whatever. RNG for healers is RNG. We scroll down a little bit and we see suggestions. This is the main point for the analyzer. It says I ran out of mana. That's an average of importance complaint. I overhealed a ton with Shaylun's gift, almost 1,500. So I'm really bad at SG, but I digress. Mana Tea usage on DI specifically is kind of finicky. So on DI, I don't really pay attention to mana usage. I mean, I just churned out as much healing as I could. I didn't utilize, essence font buffs, all that. Let's not talk about my renewing mist usage. That's awful.
Well,
that's a thing too. Is the analyzer is going to tell you how to play like as if a computer were doing it, and when you're healing, oftentimes there's just not. It's a lot more contextual, so you have to take some of these suggestions with a grain of salt to be sure. But it gives you a great starting off point to see what you could improve on and how to bring your game up.
Yeah, and it's really nice.
Oh, go ahead.
So if we go to the cooldowns from the menu drop down, you can see like my Mana Tea usage by each spell breakdown. So like my 3rd Mana Tea, I use Mana Tea into Renewing Mist, Healing Elixir, Vivify, Chi Burst, Vivify, and Essence Font. So it really helps you nail down what exactly you can improve on. And it helps a lot of people with not only HPS, but also getting a feel for the class.
Yeah, absolutely. I've looked at these before, but when I must have looked at stuff a while ago because I don't think all the menu parts were here or all the breakdowns for like the suggestion part that looks at different things that you could improve on. Of course, it's, a robot playing, right? But this is a pretty wild, just overall tool. I think right now it's every healer, Holy Disc, Holy, Resto, Mistweaver, Resto. Yeah. So all the 6 healers are here, and a few of the DPS are starting to get in here. Only Elemental Shaman and Windwalker Monk are part of it. I imagine that this hopefully will grow later on because it's definitely a healer tool. Just because it's a sort of a tool that you use after the fact, right? Like you do a boss, or you wipe, you get close, or you have a completed log, and then you analyze for next time or for the next pull or something along those lines. Whereas you can't sim, like you can't bring up Simcraft or raid bots and do that for healing. But this for healing can really shows you contextual things like the cooldown usage. That's really, really neat. I'm glad this has continued to be improved upon.
Yeah, and going back to the specific log of mine as well, at the top, right under the results, it shows you pretty much everything you could ever need to know. So, for example, I'm amazing at the game, so I wasted almost 40% of my UT procs, and I had a dead GCD time of 32.9%. But this is something pertaining to the Mistweaver class. With UT procs, you're going to miss a lot no matter what, because you can get 3 procs in 1 GCD.
Right. Yeah, it can proc as you're casting. So yeah.
Yeah, there's no limiting factor to it. You can have, since it's all like 4% of every renewing mystic, without like a procs per minute limiter on it. You can just have droughts of when there is damage, and then you can have a flood of when there is no damage going out, and you just can't spend them because it'd just be a waste of mana.
Right. I think the biggest end cap for the WoW Analyzer tool, and as these sort of grow, is that yes, you can probably go find and read, you know, a guide on one of the 2 or 3 prevalent sources, depending on if you have like an actual website for your spec. And then you could, of course, ask in Discord, might be flamed, might get memed, whatever. Or you can talk to someone you know that also plays the spec to sort of bounce feedback back off of. But this is also a huge tool that you can utilize by yourself if you're unsure of what you're doing wrong, and then just self-improve without feeling really pressured by any outside forces that, you know, people like, oh, I want to play tank, or I want to play this DPS, I want to play this healer, but I don't know where to start working on learning and improving. And you can do all this by yourself. You could do this, not really in LFR, but you could start there, right? People always say, well, where do I start learning how to progress, right? And you can analyze, I assume you can do Mythic Plus logs too, and then any of the raid logs, and you can go from there.
I'm not certain how in-depth it goes with Mythic Plus, because it's like in Warcraft logs, it's treated as like 15-minute single log. So well, I'm not entirely sure how it'd be tracked.
You could log like big bosses on Tyrannical that actually last a few minutes. That's kind of what I was, yeah. If you don't have raids to go to, but you do Mythic Plus with a team, you can go from there. So, but it's a tool that you don't have to like have anyone else critique you on. You just critique yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I talked to Anomaly about this a bit ago, but it's always something that's being improved. So big shout out to Anomaly. What a guy.
That guy's our baby boy.
It is really, really neat.
He's been really great in putting in stuff that I need for the spreadsheet without really asking why until the spreadsheet had been released, and he now understands why.
Fair enough. It's just a lot of this stuff, all of these tools are all created by like 1 or 2 people, maybe a few people. So it does take a lot of their time and resources and feedback to make these things happen. So if you want to help be a part of any of these in any of your respective Discord communities, you know, find out who puts together these resources and tools for you, and then just, you know, go from there. But moving on to direct Mistweaver stuff now. I'm going to run through a bit of this, and then we'll sort of recap. I always look back at the last 2 patches, right, when I'm making these show notes, and 7.2 into 7.2.5. 7.2, a little bit of change. A big one, and then some are like, eh. So recently in 7.2, you got back Fortifying Brew, which is pretty massive because you didn't have a DR really going into a baseline DR going into the expansion. That was in Blizzard's like, oops, we took away too much stuff. Here are Hunter traps back. So there's that. And then you had 8% damage on Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, and Rising Sun Kick. And then Chi Wave was put in and Mistwalk was removed. Because, you know, I reported... It's funny when I look back, all these abilities have been removed from the game where I gave feedback on them during all my beta press. And there's so many things that are just like, hey, Quickening's gone. Hey, Blessing of Might is gone. Hey, look, now Mistwalk is gone. Like X, Y, and Z, all these problematic things. So a little bit of tweaks in 7.2. But in 7.2.5 recently, this might be one of the largest chunks I saw for any spec so far. So you had Chi Wave upped by 73%, all healing spells by 4%, Tiger Palm, Blackout Kick, Rising Sun Kick, Spinning Crane Kick by 14% damage increase, Enveloping Mist cost reduction by 14%, Life Cocoon up by 35%, Refreshing Jade Wind, not rushing, Refreshing Jade Wind. Mana cost down by 30%, duration increased to 9 seconds, was 6, scales with haste. Haste means that the cooldown and the duration are the exact same then. Doesn't buff Essence Font anymore. Essence Font, huge change, which may or may not still be a contentious point. 12-second cooldown, 8-second duration, cost down by 10%, 23% more healing, castable while moving baseline. No need to Thunder Focus it anymore, but Thunder Focus T will give a 100% cast speed. Rising Sun Kick, mana cost reduced by 25%, and Vivify was up by 9% healing with a 11% mana cost reduction. So Mistweavers were fine, right? They were totally okay. These were not necessary. These were all just fluff. It was a fine class, right? Everything was good.
I loved my Resto Shaman. That's what I had to play.
It is a bonkers amount of attention, and of course, warranted. I don't know, Dhaubbs, walk me through the I don't know, what did I just say?
So do we want to start at the 7.2 or the 7.2.5 buffs?
Sure, you can just wrap it up with starting from the top.
All right, so I remember when we got Fortifying Brew back, that was during some pretty bad times for Mistweaver. We were starting to lag behind basically every other healer, and when we got Fort Brew, it was sort of like it was a needed change. Like we needed that buff, but it was a huge slap in the face to Mistweavers at the time because we thought Blizzard wasn't addressing our actual problems. But like, you know, now that we're in a fine spot, it feels super great to have a DR again, which is nice. The Mistwalk removal, everyone saw that coming. That thing was so broken in PvP. Not really used in raid at all, but whatever. Chi Wave being added, you know, haha, Chi Wave. Why give us this stupid spell again? It does actually nothing. And then as for the 7.2.5 buffs, like going to the Essence font, being able to cast while moving, I was one of the people in Peak, I'm sure some people remember this, of being sort of the crotchety old man, like, I don't think we need to be able to cast while moving. You need to get good. Just plant and find your Essence font windows. But with the power of hindsight, I think this was probably the best change in terms of gameplay for Mistweaver, because it's not that we needed to be able to move for Essence font based on, like, say an ability happens on the ground and then we need to move out of it. It's more that you get to increase the range of Essence font. It's a super small range when it comes to AoE healing. It's like 25 yards instead of everyone else who can just sort of heal in a big 40-yard range. But you can take an Essence font and then run it out of melee into the range and hit the entire raid group. So I think that's one of the best changes that we could have got.
Yeah,
and then
I was gonna caveat you there real quick too. As we'll go through all of the show, there'll be a very prevalent thing about how mobile the Mistweaver Monk healer is, and that's definitely part of the kit, right? But with Essence font baseline being castable on the move, I mean, hey, you can't lie here. Light on your feet can proc all the time now.
Oh yeah, it's basically impossible to not get that 30% buff.
Hey, it's a thing. You can't. Hey, it exists.
It used to be that trait, light on your feet, was pretty much never used because before 7.2.5, you would just plant and use Essence font. You wouldn't use it to get that speed buff. It was just a trait that you got at the end of everything, just so you could unlock the Paragon trait. But now that you can cast it while moving, you can actually have a noticeable effect on your movement while you're healing. Like you can get somewhere a little bit faster, and then you can plant and try to capitalize on the Essence font HOTS, or just go back to DPSing. It's a very good change, especially the cooldown aspect of it, because in Nighthold, I remember just popping Manatee and spamming Essence font.
Right.
Just until the buff ended. And that just wasn't a very healthy playstyle for the class.
Well, and not only that too, but it's also super confusing for new players. You have two of our healing spells, Vivify and Essence font, competing for the same role. And I can't tell you how many times in Peak people would come in and ask, like, okay, well, what should I do for Manatee? And it's just spam Essence font for 4 casts straight and then clip the 5th. That sort of stuff isn't intuitive. And so I think adding a cooldown was one of the better changes.
Yeah, and it's funny. I remember when we found out that it was going to have a cooldown, like me especially, I was a huge naysayer against the cooldown because EF spam is dumb, but it was our healing at the time.
Mm-hmm. It was a huge majority of our group healing.
There's almost a very rotational component to it as well, as with, I'm sure, any any main healer. You track certain parts of your where you're renewing mist are maybe less effective, but tracking where the essence font hots are impacts, at least to a small degree, where your mastery goes for an extra amount of healing. And seeing where those spread in a raid setting is really important, because before, when you would just spam it, like everyone gets like the little incremental tick heal and the little bit of, actual hit, on cast hit heal. But now, because it's rotational, you use Essence Font to then increase Vivify's entire purpose. At least that's how I understand it, right?
So it was sort of like that before, but now it's like it's a lot more. It's a lot more important to get those extra mastery ticks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a lot of kerfuffle when it first happened, and I saw the patch notes and either what was happening in different channels, or at least what I osmosed through our Mistweaver, was that it was going to be a terrible change because it's like a worse version of Wild Growth.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, the thing is that they introduced the cooldown, and I think in that PTR build, nothing else.
Okay.
And then for a couple builds after, there wasn't a whole lot of changes that would be like, okay, we lost Essence Font, but what do we have now? We didn't really have anything, but we have this increased, or we have this improved about the kit. It was just Essence Font has a cooldown. But then as the 725 PTR wound on, we got the Vivify changes. We got Refreshing Jade Wind being a competent talent, no longer tied to Essence Font and able to be its own spell now.
Right.
Then we got the Aura buff, which was very nice.
Thanks, Blizzard.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's because when you read off, because the Aura tweak is weird, because when you read a lot of these huge patch notes and you have an Aura tweak, but then you have direct spell tweaks as well, those are both happening, right? I don't know how, in what way. I mean, I'm assuming the Aura is after the fact, like it's the final thing. It's still weird that you needed a 4% tweak after they gave all these other spells everything else. They could have just added a little bit more to each of the spells. I don't know how they do it in their math world, but it was a huge chunk for the Mistweaver Monk. So that's
Garg, what was the final output? It was like something like 14%, right?
Yeah, it was roughly a 14%, but that was based off of of the old spreadsheet, which I'm kind of iffy on still, like how accurate it was.
Okay.
But it was a substantial overall healing increase from 7.2 to 7.25.
They're saying closer to 20%.
Sure, why not?
It's a huge amount. I think the biggest thing too to look at, that is sort of like the big sleeper buff, was that normally a lot of Mistweavers just use Chi-Ji. That's a 3-minute cooldown, basically a big boy like healing stream totem, and that really didn't accumulate a ton of just like raw HPS, but bringing and fixing RJW to be a really good heal alternative that actually is very rotational and consistent and constant without the Essence Font tie nonsense. That is a huge, that's by itself is a big slap on the HPS meter and something you can rely on all the time, versus Chi-Ji stupid darting around Roadrunner style nonsense that heals you for, oh, here's 50,000 when you have 5 million HP, no big deal.
Oh, I'm gonna be honest, Chi-Ji is an awful talent. I hate it.
It's I don't know, talking about it.
Well, the thing about Chi-Ji as well is that it also didn't benefit from certain HPS bonuses. Like I'm pretty sure Valens doesn't affect Chi-Ji, and like Nod Thumbring didn't. Like it was just a bizarre. It had really weird interactions.
Yeah, Crackbird's got problems, but a quick honorable mention here as we move through with the traits you had, the new 7.2 traits, and a lot of these just seem a little straightforward. The only one I have the main question about. So you've got Tendrils of Revival. So it's a reduction in the cooldown of Revival by 40 seconds, which is not insignificant. You also got Effusive Mist, which is that Effuse, which is the most cast spell by Mistweavers, obviously, always will cause Shayloon to generate a cloud of mist for, of course, your Shayloon's gift. And then the interesting one is Whispers of Xiao Hao, which, consuming the Mist of Shailun will cause each active mist to heal, additionally heal a nearby ally for 200% of their spell power. Now the overall impact of these, Garg, if you want to like give me that, but the question I had was that, this came up in the Discord chat asking about how this works, is that Whispers of Xiao Hao is kind of like a mini revival, but if you have 12 mists out, do each mist heal one person, or do they just heal, like, can 4 mists heal one person, or how the heck does that interaction work?
Okay, so this took a lot of time, more than I thought it would, to figure this out.
Right.
But, okay, so when you have Shailun as your artifact, while you're in combat, every 10 seconds, it gains a charge. But also in the world, like on the ground around you, will be a little mist ball that spawns. And what the Whispers of Xiao Hao does is that within 30 yards of that ball, any injured ally, well, not any, a specific, and like, yes, 4 balls can go to 1 ally, but within that, and they're static spawns, but they will go and heal so that it effectively doubles the effect of Shailun's gift. But you also want to focus on where your positioning is when you're spawning these balls, the mist orbs.
Yeah, because they spawn around you.
Yeah,
so...
they spawn like 8 to 10 yards in a circle around you in a random spot, like how I want to say expel harm orbs used to. Like if you were prepping before a boss, and you had like power strikes, you had these little mist orbs spawn around you, these chi balls, and it'd be in sort of that general area.
So because the mist orbs have I mean, 30 yards is a lot if that's the effective range. So really, you're probably not going to lose much of those, but a lot of where you are healing as a Mistweaver. And I don't know if effusive mist actually comes into play where you like force to get up to 12 orbs to like plan for, because usually you're always going to use Shailun's Gift on a tank as almost like a complete reset, right? You can time it for like 5 stacks of Fell Claws on Harl Kill Jaden, or soon to be Mythic, right? So you can totally, it's a lay on hands, and but if you're at range and all your orbs are around you, when you hit the tank with it, none of that extra healing will ever maybe just go to no one that needs it. Just like fly around.
The thing about with the mist orbs is that they are sort of smart in that they try not to overheal.
Okay.
So like you can plant in melee, you can be healing people at range, you can have the mist orbs spawn passively around you. And when you go to say Shailun's Gift the tank, if like the Holy Paladin hasn't Holy Shocked them, or some other instant big heal hasn't hit them, and you get the cast off, you can also have a solid majority, if not all, of the Whispers of Xiao Hao go into the tank as well, effectively doubling a Shailun's Gift.
Okay.
And the problem is it's just super easy to overheal that way, especially with, if you've got a Holy Priest or, God forbid, 2 Holy Paladins in a raid like I do. It's almost never a good idea to 12 stack a Shailun's, because you're just going to overheal with like half of it. So
in peak we normally recommend 6 to 8, sometimes even 4 stacks.
It's the effusive mist Whispers of Xiao Hao combo is incredibly mana efficient. It's just there's usually other spells to cast that would benefit a bit more. Like we could throw out a Vivify, because there's typically 3-5 people being hit with like a dot or something.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And I was getting corrected in a way with chat, comparing Shailun's Gift to Lay on Hands, which the amount of healing you can do at 12 is huge, but if there is a better way to use it, that's what you just explained. So,
I mean, to be fair, if Shailun's Gift was like an instant cast, or even not just like a 2-second cast, if it was faster, I'd stack it higher for sure and use it as like an oh crap heal. But
I think a lot of the cast time is based on the animation, because you draw in all the mist and that has to animate, and if they made it like an instant cast, it would be like, and then you just pop, like it would look really weird. So it does have and we talk about this, and a lot of the casters, not all, but a lot of casters are getting animation updates in 7.3 on the horizon here. And I think the ones that are out there that actually have animations now that were put in at launch are appreciated. So you actually have an animation with how all the mist weaves into you, and yeah, if they made it any faster, it would look weird, I think.
It's a really nice animation. I do enjoy it.
It's something.
But there's also the fact that there's a minor like graphical bug where if you're like standing on your mist clouds and you like start and cancel the Shaden's gift cast, you can actually have these little mist orbs following you around. It's
I didn't know that. What?
Yeah. I have a YouTube video back when I had a very, very crappy mic detailing it.
Wow.
Got him.
Ooh.
Got him.
Spicy.
Yeah, speaking on Whispers of Xiaohao specifically, I'm looking at my Sisters of the Moon kill on Mythic, and it's relatively low overheal. It's 22.1, and it's doing 8 million healing, which is about as much as I'm getting from Mindslaver.
Yeah, it's definitely like it can vary like 2 to 5% healing increase, and it's just passive healing. It's not a bad thing, but it's good. It's good.
Okay. Sounds good. The last little bit I wanted to go over, unless you have anything else, either of you have anything else on the traits to work on. There's Nether Crucible stuff that we went into, and we talked about this on the in the BTS podcast in a lot more rantiness about how the possibility of revival being brought down to like a minute-ish cooldown, especially with some legendary possibilities, is real in Argus. Not sure if that's going to be a thing, but
well, yeah,
we'll
I mean, and talking about the one thing I did want to mention about our traits is I get this question in Peak a lot, or in DMs. People are asking me if it's viable to use a fuse a lot, and it's still not viable. It's still not a good spell, but use it in downtime if you're not DPSing. Which at this point, I don't know why you're not DPSing, because you should be taking SOTC.
Right. I think the only time I ever fuse is as I'm fist weaving with the pants, and I get the free like 200% Thunder Focus fuse from the legendary pants. Then I'll be like, sure, I guess I'll throw it out there, because a fuse without that buff feels really lackluster. So
to be fair, with that buff, it feels great.
Oh yeah. Well, when you triple something's healing, I wonder. Yeah.
I think it's 250% spell power, which is just really low. But it also has like 40% of its output can be mastery. So if fuse isn't really used for its own healing, it's more so used for cheap mastery and cheap soothing mist starter, which you shouldn't use ever. Soothing mist is just thanks
for letting us keep that, Blizzard.
it's a filler spell when you have better filler.
Right. Well, apparently I'm being corrected. With the Crucible, apparently it won't even be a 1 minute cooldown. It'll be a 30-second cooldown of revival. So that seems fine.
Is that Tiff?
Tendrils of Revival has no diminishing return the higher relics you get. It's always 10-second per rank. Like, I know there's a rogue one that starts to DR after you hit 3 ranks, I think. And then there's Split Personality for Windwalker that DRs after you get past 4, I think. But
so no one say anything to Blizzard.
Oh, okay. Don't say anything to Blizzard? Okay.
Let's keep it on the down low.
They don't listen
Let us
to my
have
show
that
anyway.
revival.
It's fine. It's fine.
Great White Health Pot.
And while we're talking about future things, and we touched on a little bit of 7.3, I do want to do a slight mention to Tier 21, just because I put this in the notes, and all 3 of you said that your Tier 21 bonus looks real good. So what are your thoughts? And the set. Oh, sorry. The set looks real good. The tier set bonus looks real bad.
Yeah, there you go. Transmog, great. I can't wait to not wear it in raid.
What?
So,
look at that quilted pattern.
The cloak is
so
broken,
I have a problem with the color selection and the fact that it's got these sort of little nubs all over it, but whatever. The shoulders are really cool.
Orbs, they're balls. Come on.
No. The orbs are cool. I'm talking about like the studs on the leather. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Okay. I see.
It's another case though with tier 21 and tier 20 are the same thing. LFR has the best color set.
Which color is that? Is that the purple?
Yeah, that's the purple set. It's so good.
You're out of your mind. Yeah. White Tiger's the best.
Oh, you're crazy, Dhaubbs.
But yeah, the tier, the actual set bonus right now, it's just even ignoring numbers, it's designed really badly. The 2 set puts 20% of your mastery on the target as a shield for 8 seconds, and then the 4 set is like whenever you cast Renewing Mist, you have a 15% chance to heal everyone with the shield.
Still on them.
Yes. So the 2-piece depends on your targets taking damage in order to get benefit out of that shield, and the 4-piece depends on them not taking damage, so they gain benefit from the heal on that. So they're in direct conflict with each other. It's outrageous that anyone at Blizzard thought like, oh, okay, this is a good thing to put, even as a placeholder.
In some of the data mining, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Some of the data mining has it at, I think the shield lasts 8 seconds, so you can really only get 1 Renewing Mist cast out, if it even lasts the full duration.
It seems very tank healing centric, is what I was going to say, but that's like not really a thing that Mistweaver. I mean, everyone tank heals in Legion, but like that seems so. Hopefully, why I bring this up and why I don't want to dwell on it too long is that I could wax lyrically about how the 4-piece enhancement is just laughable. It doesn't do anything. It is like not even a 2% DPS gain, and if it was, it's because of the eye level on the armor giving you more agility. It's real bad. So hopefully they redesign these, but the problem I bring this up is that a lot of the tier 20 bonuses that they talked about in the PTR back earlier this year when we were looking at tier 20 for Tomb of Sargeras, a lot of them stayed the same. So I'm pessimistically optimistic that they actually would fix these, so hopefully we'll see.
I think they might. We got a lot of iteration on our tier 20 to my chagrin, so I'm hoping we get the same amount of iteration on this one.
I hope so too.
Live.
When the data mine came out, Dhaubbs and I were on super hardcore damage control in peak because it was bad.
Yeah. I was busy typing up the Peak of Serenity post saying why it's bad. But these two were doing the real work, the hero work.
All right.
Down in the trenches.
So to move on to something that as a huge topic, I realize that right now we're almost at like the time for this segment, but this is the giant meat of this section here. So I have this topic titled Raid Healing, Dungeon Healing, Fist Weaving, oh my, basically how to Mistweaver Monk. And it'll be sort of a bouncing around topic that Legion brought a lot of changes, some good, some bad, some ugly, some weird. Again, they gave you back Traps Hunters a while ago, so that's fine. But I guess with what has changed with Mistweaver, and I'll toss this over to Dhaubbs first here. Like, what do you see Mistweaver as right now? And like at reactive, proactive healing, how does Mistweaver compare to other expansions? The last 2 it's been in, how does it work in Legion right now?
So we're for sure still, like we've been with the rest of Legion, we're a reactive healer. Like damage goes out and we pump into it with Essence Font and etc. Before in like HFC, we're sort of like a neat little mix of reactive and proactive, where you would set up your Renewing Mists for uplift, but you also had tools that you could do all that very quickly in case something goes wrong and you need to react. Now we're just sort of like full reactive, run around, hit Essence Font, hit RJW, stay in melee as much as you can. We're in this really weird niche right now, I guess, where we're sort of filling exactly the same role as a druid, but with just a little less throughput. So I don't know. We're all right.
Yeah, that's the. Oh, go ahead, Harl. Go ahead.
Just to pile on with what Dhaubbs said, we're kind of a weird mix of reactionary and proactive healing. But I will say the only real proactive thing we have to worry about is how can I maximize my RJW ticks and EF hits? Just dashing around. Most of that is literally being in melee the entire fight, but there are some fights like Sisters where you can't always be in melee, but you have to pretty much keep RJW on cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a... Because the point that brings up it's weird, and you say you're kind of filling this niche that's like a Resto Druid, but with a little less throughput, but a Resto Druid doesn't really bring any damage to the mix, and that's sort of the thing you talked about earlier too, about how you do a lot of this healing at the same time, and as you react to healing, you're always in there punching and kicking and slapping the boss, right? And it's not insignificant damage, essentially, with all the buffs the healers keep getting to actually do something. The weakest damaging healer, of course, still being Resto Shaman, but again, they have 19 cooldown, so who cares what their damage is? That brings up the healer utility argument, and healer utility argument, we talked about this on the Holy Paladin show recently and the Resto Druid show before that, is that healers aren't brought for damage. So if Mistweaver's little extra bit is to do some damage, right? Because Revival is not where it used to be. Life Cocoon apparently is terrible, even though there's some funny shenanigans you can do with Life Cocoon if you haven't figured out those. I'll let the Discords and all that talk about that. And then there's like Tiger's Lust is a thing. Spirit Tether, which if Garg wants to talk about that, is actually interesting. And then I put in here in italics boss resets.
The best utility of all.
Yeah. Well, I get asked on my stream all the time, how are you resetting X and Y and Z boss? And I was like, you put Transcendence outside the invisible wall that forms, and then you taunt the boss, and then pour it out, and then it resets the boss. So, but I guess that I'll Garg on this for you. So why are Mistweavers, what do you think, are frowned upon by the community then? Like what? Because you do bring a lot of things. So why this stigma?
We bring very niche things. Like Tiger's Lust acts as a free dispel, but only on roots and slows. And I don't think it's counted as a dispel in logs if you do.
And it's also only a 20-yard range, which is
right.
Just like I want to tear out my hair whenever I have to use it.
Yeah. But Spirit Tether is another huge niche thing where like I use it on Harjatan, where I can use Tiger's List to go to the sickly eggs, put down that 50% slow just in that area around it, and then run back over and still have enough time to get in front of the boss for his unchecked rage. And then the ads that spawn out of those eggs are slowed for a long time because they have to go through it. They can't dispel it. There's seemingly nothing you can do except just outrange the snare effect. And I also use it on Demonic Inquisition. But it's just that Mistweavers hadn't had a hugely defined niche as a healer in Legion until now, where we sort of fill the melee player-based AoE, where we can have our Resto Druid Efflorescence or Resto Shaman Healing Rain. We can have that move with us while the melee move. And we can have Essence Font. We can plant in melee and we can use it there, or we can also, in the same channel, move out and hit some range with it, and all without losing any healing on it. And so
I think to go back to like why the community sort of has a like a perception issue with Mistweaver, I think that has more to do with just it's the wheels are sort of slow to turn, you know, like monks were in a really bad spot in Nighthold, and now that we've got these buffs, we're still not quite I'd say we're still not quite where we need to be, but we're for sure competitive, and you can bring a Mistweaver to World First kills. But yeah, I think it's just it's sort of like in the same position where not quite the same as Brewmasters in early Legion, but it's just the community thinks that, you know, that has been ingrained with Mistweavers are bad, don't bring Mistweavers, and they haven't been able to see a Mistweaver in their raid yet. So
it's also a fact of like you have 2, sometimes 3 open healer spots, right? Because you have to have your Resto Shaman and you have to have your Holy Pally. So of those 3 spots on some 5 heal fights, why not bring double Resto Druid, Holy Priest, etc. Like, we're still not quite where we need to be. And Mistweaver is viable, don't get me wrong. If you're a good player, you can play Mistweaver and be perfectly fine. It's just kind of, we're still in a weird spot this late into Legion.
Yeah, well, the weird spot brings up what we talked about, and we dredged through this again in the BTS podcast, so more on that in the BTS podcast over on Patreon. But fist weaving was what was like the premier new thing when monks came into being and Mistweavers were a thing in MoB, right, when they're introduced. And it was very different back then than now. And Eminence, may it maybe come back or not, because there were parts of it that were terrible, parts of it that were amazing, but that was the niche, right? Because you had Discipline Priest, not the same back then as they are now. Now they're in a really good spot. Discipline Priests are seeing top-end Mythic World First progression kills. Avatar method used it on Avatar. That's a huge thumbs up for Discipline. Like, holy crap. Is that they're the ranged caster that support heals, right? They bring a kit that supports. They have the extra cooldowns, things like that. Like, it's so funny when we have a Disc Priest on farm and we see the bubble go up, or we see like the huge paints up on the tank, and it's like they bring things that help. They're a supportive DPS healer. But fist weaving was so gutted in Legion from you guys that now we lost like the actual, like the melee DPS supportive healer. And I don't know why they went so, balls to the wall on removing that from you, because you can spec for fist weaving. Like, there's a whole like slew of things you can do to make it better, but it's still, at that point, it's not.
Yeah, and it's sad because Eminence aside, I hated Eminence. It was an awful play style. But Legion fist weaving, going back to Alpha and Beta, was amazingly fun. Like the RSK and the Rising Thunder build, like, it was intuitive. It showed that you were a good player, and it was just a flat out fun playstyle. And they nerfed that so hard into the ground in Legion that any sort of identity we had was completely gone.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's,
I think what fist weaving, I'm doing air quotes, but you can't see. What fist weaving in Legion now is just 2 talent choices, because we still have the melee immunity, but it was added. It was re-added late into the alpha cycle of Legion, to where it just kind of feels a bit like an afterthought.
Right. It's just, it's just Rising Thunder and Spirit of the Crane, right, which is it. And go ahead, Dhaubbs. Yeah.
Spirit of the Crane you're taking regardless anyways in TOS, because bosses have enough downtime to regen your mana, and you're wasting a lot of, well, not wasting, but you're burning a lot of it with EF and RJW. But it's funny because Rising Thunder is just a flat out HPS loss. There's nothing you can do. It's just flat out bad. And it's super fun. I play it in Mythic Plus a lot, but you can't play it in Raid unless you're doing really trivial content.
It seems to me that the flavor of these just don't, like, Rising Thunder should have something on Rising Sunkick besides just resetting. Like, you should like splash out mist and heal people around you when you do it. Like a little bit of like the kind of glitter storm healing that Red Pallies do. Like something that adds to it, or something even that's baseline in the kit, because that is like mist weaving when you had stances, when you were actually in the mist weaving stance, when you were when Jade Serpent, you would just kind of stand there and like crackling J Lightning between, and that's all you would do, and you do nothing. But you felt so much more impactful when you were doing the Eminent stuff, when you're doing Red Crane, because not only were you doing damage that wasn't, but you were actually then also contributing, because the better damage you dealt and the better your rotation was with how Mana Tea used to work, you would be able to do more healing because you'd have more mana to heal more and output more and efficiently.
Yeah,
but that's this is gone now.
Take Blackhand for example. Mythic Blackhand, phase 1, you had the DPS.
Right.
And Eminence was great there because there was healing, but it was light enough that you could let your other healers take care of the big bursts with debris. And Eminence was there kind of as a backup. And now it's still super imperative for healers to DPS. Like, this is something you have to drive home with your guilds. Healers have to DPS. And SOTC is good now because we may still be wasting those 3 GCDs, but we don't need those 3 GCDs to always be healing like we did in Nighthold.
Yep.
Speak for yourself. I used Spirit of the Crane in Nighthold too.
Dhaubbs is a special boy.
Yeah.
I love this. I love this talent.
So that's just the only thing that feels weird, because they've focused so much to make Discipline, which is the damage to healing healer ranged version. They've worked on it so much, but Mistweaving, it just really feels like they either lost interest or don't want the Fist Weaver to be a thing. So hopefully that changes in 8.0. We'll have to wait and see. But
yeah, thank Uplift for ruining my class.
What? Yeah, thanks Uplift.
He takes full responsibility for it too. Is the best thing.
Well, are we saying Uplift the spell or Suplift the person, or both?
Suplift. Suplift nerfed my spec.
Unfortunate. So the end cap to that, before we move on, is what do you guys think the healing hierarchy looks like right now? Like, if you wanted to like list top healers, required healers. Harl already brought that into, a bit of a
resto shaman.
Well,
if we're talking like what you need in a raid group,
right?
I'd say shaman, paladin, then like holy priest, disc, resto, druid, mistweaver.
As a sort of caveat, this is for like mythic world first progression. Like,
yeah. So Garg and I were talking about this Thursday night or Friday night, because Garg and I are both progressing on Desolate Host right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's Corporeal Realm, I'm Spirit Realm. Garg has the easy job. But I was telling him that Spirit Realm's damage pattern is awful, because you're not able to hit 6 targets with RJW effectively. Essence Font doesn't get full use because you can't really utilize HOTS effectively. Revival is awful down there. But then you look at a class like Holy Priest, they kill it. They can sustain 1.2 million easily without dipping below, 40% mana.
Yeah, I think we had our Resto Druid solo heal top, the up phase, the Corporeal Realm, and then I think we 3 or 4 healed with maybe 1 floater for the bottom. And I believe our Mistweaver was down because you just stand in melee DPS and just spin an AoE burp all over everyone because we're taking so much damage downstairs. They just nerfed Desolate Host, which is a pretty big nerf on that the Shadow Chain Lightning from the ads, which is going to be noticeable. But the upstairs damage pattern I can't imagine, because you just like heal people and then you stand there. So, do you have anything you think the same hierarchy though, Garg, from your perspective, or?
I would say that Resto Shaman is very helpful because like it has Ancestral Protection Totem, which you can use a free battle res that you wouldn't otherwise have without them. So definitely very helpful there on progress. Their mastery is it has its situational uses to be very, very impressive.
Okay.
Holy Priest with their 4-set tier and Cosmic Ripple artifact trait is an HPS machine. Like, it's one of the best throughput healers at the moment, no contest. Okay. Mistweaver's sort of on the low end of the throughput healers, which is Disc, Holy Priest, Druid, and Mistweaver. Paladin's sort of in its own sort of bubble because it has the cleave healing with tanks. And with their tier, it sort of like neutralizes most other healer throughput on tanks that's needed. But I would agree that Mistweaver's on the low end of the 4 throughput healers that you could bring to progress.
Mm-hmm.
We're for sure better than we used to be. Like,
yeah.
Just seem like gloom and doom. Like the healer balance is a lot closer now. But I do think that Mistweavers are still lagging behind just a little bit. I think within reason. You got to have someone who's on the bottom.
Compared to Nighthold progress, this is a dream.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So your tier 21's gonna fix the problem, though, right?
Yeah, I'm gearing my Holy Priest right now.
Oh no! Oh, no. And I guess the last bit is, are there any bugs or major problems or like bits of tomfoolery that you want to bring up that may or may not be known? Or
yeah, a bit of tomfoolery. Garg takes tiger's lust. Who does that?
What a nerd.
Oh, come on.
is that bad? Is that bad?
It's not bad. It's actually like it's technically the better choice, I think, but it's just such a feel bad talent, and it's such a small
Honestly,
difference that
I've used it since I want to say Hellfire's Citadel, and I just haven't gone back on it because I have more control over my movement, and I can also help out the Death Knights in my guild who have no movement.
That's silly
As for bugs, there's one with Chi-Ji where he just stops casting sometimes, and you have to manually restart him.
How do you manually restart him? Oh, you have to use the pet bar.
The pet bar, yes, but you can also macro in cast Crane Heal into like I have it in Renewing Mist, so just for a button to hit if I see him standing next to me.
Yeah, and
that's a lot of his healing that's just not there because you have to start him again.
Another bit of mystery utility is on Vault of the Warden's Cordana Felsong. Spirit Tether slows the spirits. Creeping Doom, whatever the hell it's
that
called.
is hilarious.
It
What?
slows the spirit walls?
Yeah.
Dude, Mistweaver's OP. I'm gonna go push some high keys.
I don't think.
I'm telling you, I'm the Mythic Plus guy. Hello?
So if you put that like in the middle of the room, would it like arbitrarily desync and create openings that you could just walk through because it will?
Well, it's not super huge, but it's definitely saved my Ook Demon Hunters a lot.
What the heck? That's so weird. That's a weird one. Okay. That's strange. I was going to note on the Chi-Ji thing that I brought this up back in beta, and I don't know why they did this, that Blizzard was so adamant that they made it animate and made him run around and slam into all the people that he heals. I don't know why he doesn't just like stand next to you and just radiate healing and do that awesome animation where he does in Mop, where you talked to him in the real world, he like sings with all the like the notes and stuff that float around him and the aura he creates. It looked so much better for him than just like road running around and slamming into everyone's face. Whatever, Blizzard.
Yeah, he does lose. I've found like 15 to 20% of his total maximum casts just from running around. It's definitely AI screwing the pooch on this one.
Okay, yeah, it's goofy. Anything else, Dhaubbs? Did you have anything to add to the wonky broken or bug?
Well, you think I'm gonna give away my trade secrets?
Oh, I mean,
Blizzard will fix them. I don't actually know a lot of Mistweaver bugs.
Well, that's good. If there's not a whole bunch of things to bring up, or you have a laundry list, where like, oh, this is broken, you know, that's fine. That's good then. All right, Crackbird has a problem. Okay, yeah, he does. Such an elegantly spoken character. His animation is terrible. But anyway, I will move us right along to the sort of mid-show break where I plug some things and talk about some stuff. So again, real quick, I have to give a huge shout out to everyone over on Patreon, supporting the show, keeping the lights on, all that good stuff. If you don't know, YouTube doesn't really do much for the show anymore because of how YouTube has changed. So if you want the show to keep happening, if you want all the specs to get their interviews, you want the world first shows to keep going, you know, not stop, and the show to expand into other games in the future, possibly, I don't know, Destiny 2, maybe some community spotlights, I don't know who so, then Patreon's the place to do it. And the assistant producers, of course, of the show that are helping out a ridiculous amount. Stupid. But Truffles, Ludovicus, Taislin, R4, Douthier, Quen, VRez again, thank you very much. And you're not just throwing money at me, you're getting something out of it. So if you want more shows and show notes and behind the scenes art and things we're working on that I post up randomly, the biggest thing right now is I basically double my workload. So if you want more podcasts, sort of off the script, just like behind the scenes, just talky, those sort of happen, little bit of rant going on there. These are all posted up there. They're audio only, so you can go check those out. The Retribution Paladin one was especially spicy. There were some call outs in that one that was it was interesting. You can go check those out. They're all on the Patreon page. You can go back. There's the episode where Preacher and I talked about Legion for like 2 hours. That one's also interesting. Or if you want to support the show in a more physical manner, Tutron and I right now, my current artist working on the key art, is putting together, we started at like 2 or 3 designs, and now we're up to like maybe 9 or 10. So Tutron made the Demon Within shirt that sort of commemorated Exorcist Mythic World First Gul'dan. We are working on, and it should be premiering sometime this week, for Method's Mythic Kill Jaden. Again, it's a design that doesn't focus on the old design we had where like the actual guildies were sort of like 3 of the guests that came on the show were sort of like embodied on the shirt, like, you know, little chibi face styles. Those are a thing of the past. Now we do like a design that actually works. Or supporting me on this avenue with shirts, hoodies, tank tops, sweaters, t-shirts, stickers, all that kind of stuff. More versions of this is coming in the future too. There's a new design that DBH just rolled out that's an all-over print. So if you want like my dumb face all over a shirt, that may happen. Exactly. But this supports me working with local artists that work on stuff in our little corner of the world of Warcraft. So a little Illidan shirt, all these 6 little final bosses by Fabelina. You can pick up one of these Blame shirts and go find this Sparkle Dragon at BlizzCon this year. Whatever you'd want to do. And of course, if you've missed any of the past episodes, these shows are all put on YouTube, all in playlists by the year. All the side content's also posted there. The new discussion videos that I've been dabbling in are also there too. Or you can check out the show on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play Music. Just search for Final Boss TV. Plug that into your phone, your audio device, your Kindle, your tablet, whatever, and then you can listen to the show audio only if you'd like to. The RSS feed, you can also hook that into through the website. I believe that's still a thing. But that's enough about me blabbing about stuff. Let's talk about what everyone wants. Chat really wants stat weights, apparently. But I had to move this down to this section of the show. Real quick on the Mage Tower. Anyone have any discussions about the Mage Tower they want to share? Did you all one-shot it because it's super easy? Or did Harl wipe like 30 times before he did it?
Listen, I may have wiped many times, but as a Mistweaver, that is so much harder than Holy Pally or Resto Shaman. It's absurd.
Why is it absurd?
So Resto Shaman, like, they may not have the damage, but you cannot die in that scenario at all, actually. Holy Pally has insane damage, and they can't die.
And the interrupts.
Mm-hmm.
And Shaman has Purge.
Yeah, well.
For the Arcane Mage bosses.
There's something weird about that too, which that hasn't come up yet at all. I mean, Purge as a Shaman is a thing, but I really feel for every other healer out there, the other 5 of you, that don't have an interrupt at all anymore. But there's some, you know, like, Holy has their stun, I guess, but Hammer of Justice used to interrupt if it didn't stun the target. That's gone. And Holy does have Chastise, I guess, but and Discipline has their knockback you can tell into, but Restoration Shaman still has an actual ranged interrupt, but no other healer does.
Yeah, and it's absurd.
Yeah.
And
the Karate Master doesn't have a move to interrupt.
I don't know why you don't have the Spear Hand Strike or whatever the interrupt is that the other 2 have. Yeah, I don't know why.
Like, I know
it had to have been for PvP. Like, that's the only thing I can think of, because it's not really that broken in PvE, especially when you have DPS classes who gain DPS from wanting to interrupt.
Right.
I know. Sorry.
Oh no, go for it. I was just gonna, say nothing.
I was looking into the stream chat, and something reminded me that, like, in Neltharian's Lair, when you're on your way to the Worm boss, there are these basilisks that can stun you on, like, I think it's a 5-second cast time, and I can see them targeting me. I can see the DPS not interrupting, and I just get stunned, and there's nothing I can really do about it. It's just an awful feeling.
You just got to use your 2-minute blood elf.
Oh,
racial.
I have that. That's right.
Yeah, it's because we bullied Garg pretty badly.
Yeah, I originally swapped from dwarf to a Tauren, and then I was bullied into going blood elf, and I'm a blood elf.
Yeah, well, chat is countering you on that one, Garg. You can paralyze them to stop the cast, but paralyze as an interrupt only works on like non-elite mobs.
Also,
as well as removes all dots.
These clowns obviously don't roll with the god setup with warlocks, because I will get chastised if I sap off the warlock dots.
Yeah, that's whatever. That's why I didn't bring up paralyzed, because it has so many drawbacks that it's just like, it's great for an out before pull CC. If you're doing like super high Mythic Plus and you paralyze that target in the corner and you repent one and you sheep one, right? It's fine. But it's just so many little issues with that moment with healers losing interrupt, like assistance is so rough. And yeah, you could spec into the AoE stun, but I mean, it's not baseline and it doesn't interrupt.
It's not guaranteed to be up.
Right, exactly,
Also,
of course. Yeah.
In most Mythic Plus I've run personally, Ring of Peace is so good. Shout out to Vault of the Warden specifically, because that was it spiders and spirits and whatever, where you have the light last part of the dungeon. Ring of Peace is so good there because you can trap 20 mobs against the wall and they bug out and don't do anything. Free damage.
Well, okay.
There's another thing with Song of Chi-Ji. It's on the same row,
right?
But it has a 20-second duration and a 15-second cooldown, and I believe that the diminishing return for disorients is 15 seconds. So in theory, you can permanently disorient mobs if you line it up right.
And then you have the Mongoloid demon hunters who just burst AoE everything down.
Well, hey, I play Havoc as my main ult. I resent that remark. It's fine.
I'll let you in on a secret, Garg. I've literally never ever used that ability.
Neither have I. And you can cheese with it, but it's just not leg sweep.
Right. Well, that turned into a bit more of a topic than I wasn't expecting. So now we'll talk about stats. So I guess I'll go to Harl first. Everyone's been asking about Mythic Plus stat weights and whatever, and then we'll jump into the mastery debacle. If you want to bring up stats, this is one of your 3 questions, Harl. Go for it.
You're right, Mythic Plus. In Mythic Plus, it's funny because everything we want in Raid is exactly opposite. In Mythic Plus, you want a lot of haste and you want a lot of mastery. You have a lot of downtime to drink, so mana's not an issue. Haste, obviously, to get your casts off faster, and even though mastery is an awful stat, it's an extra heal. And the only time I really worry about stats at all in Mythic Plus... Oh, also, I use Tier 20 in Mythic Plus. A lot of people say it's bad. You're wrong.
Okay.
I use a crit verse build on tyrannical bosses. So, Cordana Felsong, tyrannical. First boss in Nelth on tyrannical is awful. So, opposite of raid stats, TLDR. And then for raid, let's bring up my Mythic Sisters kill. This is the stat weights for it. I'll post it in Discord so you can bring it up on stream.
Oh yeah, let me see this nonsense.
Oh, these are hilarious. Get excited.
They're the best.
So, this is a Mythic Sisters kill. How long is this? This is 848 kill length. I finished at 150k DPS and 900k HPS. Right? Not too great. Whatever. Don't have Valens. No flame. Intellect weight is a flat 1. Crit is 1.13. Versatility is 1.12. Those are all, that's all regular. And then we get to haste mastery. Haste is 0.36 and mastery is 0.31.
Dead stats.
So
I have weaker stats, and of course I can see the YouTube comments right now. Bay, stop bringing up enhancements, Shaman. It's how I relate to the game, all right, YouTube? Jeez. Like I have dead stats in the sense that like crit and verse are like 20 to 25% weaker than my best 2, but this is like 70+% weaker here on haste and mastery for you in this regard. So that seems fine. That's
totally fine.
Yeah.
And it hurts me because I'm using 4-set for tier 20, and I have a 935 socketed tier helm, And Tyr Helm has over 1,000 mastery on it. So that's good.
The Kill Jaden Helm has well over 1,000 crit on it. It's just so good.
And that's fine, right? So we'll bring up the mastery problem. And I'm going to bring up the tooltip on screen real quick here if you want to go into stats. So mastery, as I scroll way too far past it, no big deal. Let me recenter that on the screen right now. So mastery, there we go, is Gust of Mists, which it's Effuse, Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, and Vivify also cause a Gust of Healing Mist, instantly healing the primary target for a percentage of your spell power, and your mastery percentage is the percentage of your spell power. There's no other coefficient here. There's no multiplicative math. It's just if you have 50% mastery, the Gust will heal for 50% of your spell power on the primary target. Which
There's
is
also
oh, go ahead.
One quick thing is that Shaden's Gift also procs mastery on the target.
Oh, which of course doesn't include it. So Blizzard tooltips working really good.
Also start Soothing Mist, but that's a moot point at this point in the expansion.
The start of Soothing Mist? Oh, okay.
It starts Soothing Mist, yeah.
Oh, right, yeah. That's a passive. Yeah, Soothing Mist is listed as a passive, I believe. So
and since we're going into this whole mastery debacle, which will take us 4 hours to debate,
yep.
All our good legendaries and our weapon have mastery on them, as well as haste. So that's good.
Because they're all good legendaries.
Yeah, Mistweaver legendaries.
Good joke.
I don't understand. I mean, mastery for Mistweaver in the past has been an interesting journey, and you basically have your old mastery of the healing orbs, the spheres, right? The Chew orbs that spawn out of you now are part of just how Shaylun works. We talked about it, of course, earlier. But this mastery, because most masters have multiplicative benefits, right? Like mine increases the damage of my 3 main elements and adds an additive bonus to Wind Fury and the reset of Stormbringer, right? Like these flat bonuses and a multiplicative bonus. Havoc has movement speed and chaos damage, multiplicative bonuses. Gust of Mist is just a percentage flat of your spell power, but only on certain spells and only on primary targets. There's so many just like, and this, and that, and that, and only this, and a little bit of that. It's just, it seems lost.
Yeah, and it's the only healer mastery to work like that. I mean, every other healer has some sort of multiplicative mastery based on the cast that they're doing. You know, like Holy Priest get a percentage as a hot, and rest of shamans get a percentage increase based on how low the target is, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Monks just get flat bonus, and it's so it doesn't scale well, and then it also doesn't affect any of our meaningful AoE heals.
Right. As we went over earlier on the stat scaling, it does nothing for RJW. It does nothing for Chi-Ji. Like we're looking at that tier, right? And then it won't do anything for Jade Serpent because like it would like
right.
It doesn't do anything for those. And we talked about this.
None for Chi Burst either.
None for Chi Burst. Oh, come on. Zen Pulse is fun. It looks cool. It doesn't do anything for that, though.
It's good for Mythic Plus.
Yeah. But like I asked you this last night when we were prepping the notes, and I just don't know why it doesn't work for all Vivify targets either, because it wouldn't even be that big of a deal.
I mean, that's just uplift, which is the reason they redesigned our spec.
Oh. What you got, Harl? What you got?
Oh, it's funny. I'm looking at my gear in my bags right now, and I have a 925 KJ helm, which is crit dominant, and I can't wear it because of force set. But then we look at my DI log, which we brought up the analyzer for earlier, and my weights are intellect at 1, crit at 1.08, haste at 0.58, mastery at 0.42, and burst at 1.13. So I'm thinking that DI actually time to forget the force set, because it's only like a 3% increase on that.
You're out of your mind.
Well,
I love stats on the class, man.
All right, so Garg is sitting here making sure you're all saying the right thing. So I mean, Dhaubbs, what's the difference in how raid gearing than raid stats? Because I put in here, is there a math point over feel, or do you just gear feel over math?
So personally, I gear feel for Mythic Plus because one, I don't really consider it terribly relevant content, but also there's just like a lot of there's a lot of sketchy things that can happen, and there's a lot of variables in Mythic Plus that are hard to really nail down. But for raids, it's pretty set in stone. Math is greater than feel.
Mm-hmm. I do want to say real quick that I don't really heal Mythic Plus. I'm a Windwalker for the 5-mans.
Oh, that's why you're just abstaining from the Mythic Plus discussion.
Yep.
Fair enough. And that's fine. There's a whole other debacle with Windwalkers going on right now about weapon scaling and scaling in general. That's a huge blue post. You can go read that. It's always funny where these little things crop up. And I mean, chat brings up, Rib talks about how your mastery is somewhat multiplicative, right? Obviously, the heal can crit and is affected by verse. Yes. But when
but so is every other healer mastery, and when it affects the spell that it's previously proccing on, except we don't get the bonus of the coefficient of the first spell. It's just flat.
I was talking to either Rhino, some high Holy Pally Theory crafter. They were talking about how Aura of Sec kind of doesn't benefit from everything it's supposed to, or says it does.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of how our mastery works. Like, you think that it's good, like, oh, Vivify hits primary target for 12k extra, but with UT procs, you don't want that extra on the primary target. Usually, you want it in that splash zone because Vivify it tends to overheal a lot in the splash zone, anyways. But I digress.
I'm not trying to be all like super doom and gloomy here. Obviously, the math inside of this game is vast and ridiculous. I understand that side of it, but when there is these fundamental like breaks, and Blizzard even tried to like rebalance secondary stats earlier in the expansion just to basically like kind of put a band-aid on a giant gash that requires stitches, there are little problems that develop. And it's fine to have a secondary stat that isn't like, I don't like this, but it's not fine, as you both talked about in the eye level discussion, to take 30 eye levels lower because you don't care about that stat so much that you take a huge cut in stamina, in intellect, and for a better green secondary stat. That just feels dumb. Like there's something wrong with that. You should always want higher level gear to progress your character and move forward. That this is not even a jewelry discussion. It's like actual gear with int on it. So,
and there's for sure room for, you know, the nuance of, do I take like in an ideal balancing situation, do I take this piece of gear that's maybe 5 or 10 items levels lower because it's got better stats? I think that aspect of gearing is sort of fun and interesting, because I think it would be boring if it was just like you only care about item level, period. But yeah, the current situation where we have like a 945 is 1% worse than a 915 that I'm using. It's a problem.
Yeah, there's just a dissonance there, or a complete break in how some things should work. And
it's kind of depressing because when they did the whole primary stat rebalance or whatever they actually did, a lot of Mistweavers were actually looking forward to it, because that was ideally we could forego not worrying about mastery and just collect int, because int is our main stat.
Mm-hmm.
But it never ended up happening.
Nope. Yeah, but that's you should never want, or in the case of math, need to lose 2 tiers worth of eye level or a full tier worth of eye level, even in a small example, because it works better. That doesn't make any sense. So it just doesn't feel like there's something broken with that. But we can move on to tier sets. So we'll sort of give like a passing glance at tier 19, right? The Vestments of Enveloped Dissonance. What a set name. Where your 2-piece was really misses a 1% increased chance to increase healing at Vivify, which is a flat additional bonus on the Uplifting Trance proc that Renewing Mist gives you. And your 4 pieces Vivify heals your primary target for 25% more. Again, primary target. And Essence Font's hot duration is bumped up by 2 seconds, which then, of course, gives you the bonus of when you heal a target that your master would proc on with Essence Font's hot, you get 2 applications of it instead of 1. But tier 19 is... Oh, go ahead, Garg.
I just want to say real quick that before Tomb of Sargeras released, the 2-piece was a 2% increase to Uplifting Trance proc chance.
It was nerfed, yeah.
And it sounds lackluster, but honestly, tier 19 was quite good. And specific to the damage patterns in Nighthold during progression, because farm, who cares? But progression, that 4-piece came in clutch a lot of the times, specifically thinking about Star Augur. I loved 4-set all the time because UT was proccing. You had more procs than you knew what to deal with. And Vivify was hitting decently hard. It's no holy shock, but...
Yeah,
well, that and the Essence Font hot duration was so integral to the class, they took it from the tier 19 and just made it baseline.
Well, they sort of did, yeah. Secondly, in 725. So now, if you're wearing it, you actually have the tiered bonus plus the tiered bonus because it goes to 10 seconds and it's 8 right now. Because it used to.
I shouldn't say they take it off. They added it rather.
Right.
Because it had been a baseline 6 seconds.
Yep.
Living brings up a good point that I had forgotten, but the 4-set actually made a UT proc to Viv stronger than Essence Font.
Oh, just to cast. Like,
so it was more HPS to cast a UT proc to Viv than an Essence Font.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that always, those power spikes and that point right there, that always brings me into, is there any shenanigans that you all are looking at before I bring up tier 20? Are there any combinations that you're pushing? Are you running 2-piece old, 4-piece new?
No.
Or
I tried, but eye level.
The eye level gain of Tomb of Sargeras gear is too much for 1% more wasted uplifting trances.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the real problem with tier 19, and especially with the playstyle we have now, is there's, even before we were wasting a lot of our uplifting trance buffs through maybe no fault of our own, but now there's even less room for GCDs that we can put into a UT proc. So adding more of them sort of hurts us when we can spend GCDs on rushing Jade or refreshing Jadewind.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, that at least that works properly, because as much as we've dogged on Resto Shaman, Resto Druid right now is in a really awkward place where they want tier 19 and tier 20 is a huge loss. So they'll be wearing tier 19 for the foreseeable future because their tier 21 is also poop.
Hey, I've run out of empathy for Resto Druids at this point.
Oh. Well, that's just mean. But okay. So then Zhuen's battle gear, or Zuen if you pronounce it wrong, is your tier 20 right now. So Essence Font, your 2-piece. Essence Font has a 40% chance to grant Surge of Mists, a just new proc you can track. So more weak auras and stuff. So Surge of Mist reduces the cost of your next in developing mist by 75%, which I kind of like caveat here is basically it's a tier bonus strong version of life cycles just for that connection of 2 abilities.
And then, a little bit.
Yeah. And then your 4-piece is when you use Surge of Mist, when you consume it, your healing use will be increased by a flat 12% for 10 seconds. So more things to track, because you'd obviously want to consume that even almost all the time. I imagine, is there an uptime that you can actually keep that going? Or Garg, what's some math on Zhuen's battle gear?
I want to say that they put it on the new deck system they have, so that you kind of cannot guarantee back-to-back-to-back procs. I mean, you can, but then you'll just have a massive drought that you might not even see for the rest of the fight. But in one of the first builds, you could, one interesting thing is that you could actually do a cancel aura inside Essence Font, and you would get the 4-piece bonus without spending mana on, or the cast time on the enveloping mist. And you just get the healing increase. But that's since been fixed, so don't go start making macros now.
And speaking of old PTR tier set builds, there was one, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it made it so you would have a ton of renewing mists out. And that was also around the time we were thinking about Shelter of Rin maybe being a good legendary for once, because if you have that many renewing mists out, it might be an HPS increase. But that has sadly gone away, which was unfortunate. We were all super excited about it because that's kind of HFC Mistweaver, which is the wet dream of any Mistweaver.
It was a ton of fun. Yeah, that was when the old bonus was, instead of getting a 12% buff, we got a reset on our Thunder Focus tier, right?
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Which was much more compelling gameplay, honestly. Like so don't get me wrong, the tier 20 bonuses are good. It's a great healing increase, but it's designed in such a way that it's frustrating to play with. And then also it's just flat worse from a gameplay perspective than what it was before. It used to be that instead of proccing it off of Essence Font, you'd get a bonus that was like, what, 2 procs per minute.
It was a 2 procs per minute, 15% chance on healing casts.
Yeah, so you'd get that, so it could proc at any point, and then you'd have this window where you could reset your Thunder Focus T, and it's like, that's some pretty good gameplay. There's some bonuses, there's some synergies. It opens up new legendary options for us. It was going to be great, and then Blizzard changed it so that now you get a buff that you have to proc off of reactionary healing to give you a bonus to healing that you use after the damage has gone out. It's a mess.
Yeah, and with fight damage patterns in Tomb of Sargeras, I brought this up before, there's downtime. So when you get that 12% buff, 9 times out of 10, the damage is done. It's already gone out. So you're sitting there twiddling your thumbs with a 12% healing increase when everyone's at 90% HP.
Exactly. You have to hit the Essence Font, do its whole 3-second cast, do the 1.5 second. This is of course before haste, but the 3-second Essence Font cast, the 1.5 second enveloping mist cast, and then you get your healing bonus. And good luck utilizing it when you've got other healers in the raid.
Well, I bet the 2-piece only have 40% chance when you finish the Essence Font to even gain Surge of Mist.
Oh, it's when you start the cast. Yeah.
Oh, the start of the cast.
So you have to sit there for 2 GCDs while you have this juicy buff that should have been active for the Essence Font you're casting.
It sucks. If it was at the end of the cast, it would feel actually better, because I can't tell you how bad it feels to start an EF cast that's a great EF, and hear my weak aura go off, and I have an option of either clipping the cast, TFT into Enveloping Mist for the 12% buff, or finish the EF cast, hard cast EVM, and AFK.
Yeah, that's a weird interaction. There's always some little nugget about healing tier bonuses that always, either like with Resto Druids, really good, or with this, it just could use one tweak. Like you say, if it happened at the end of the cast, or if it was the version they were looking on the PTR, where it had like the window, it just happened to give you Surge of Mist on any heal, so you can react to it no matter what you're doing. That there are these little snags, because as RNG and reacting to things as a healer is just part and parcel. RNG healing buffs that you can react to don't really do anything, because if they procs when there's nothing to do, or what if you get like the proc happens and you're falling down on Avatar or something like that, and you can't even do anything, or there's a phase of the fight where you have to like drop your torment on DI or something like that. It just gets annoying to have
being a proc healer is not. We don't want it. No one wants it.
Yeah.
I'll say this about that. The proc isn't the worst, because you can utilize it. The problem is how it procs. It's directly tied to a move that we only use to react to a huge damage. If it was just like a proc per minute or any other thing, so we had like a window to use it still, it'd be better. But now you're guaranteeing that 100% of the time you get the proc, it's going to happen after damage has happened, and that feels awful.
Yeah, it feels very desynced. Again, desynced from the point of what you're supposed to be doing, or how you heal, or how you react to just the encounter itself. So,
and it's kind of a noob trap, if I'm honest, because you get the 4-piece proc and you're thinking, cool, I need to use this right away so I can take advantage of my 12% buff. But you're going to end up wasting more than half of that buff 9 times out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Like its niche is that it's more sustained damage, or like a lull in damage where you can have Essence Font come back off cooldown and you still have Surge of Mist, so you can then prepare an Enveloping Mist as damage is coming out, so you have the 4-piece bonus with an Essence Font.
Right. Yeah,
it's just really rare moments in fights where that can actually line up and RNG can go in your favor.
Yeah, and that just sounds just frustrating. So that leads. Anything else?
I was just bringing up tier 20 4-piece feels fine with Doorway if it procs, but that's so rare that it almost never happens.
Well, that leads me right into the big new squished section of the show, which will go over builds, legendaries, and talents and builds, and how that all works together, and how the Mistweaver community has sort of found what works the best, or where this works, or how that fits in there. So we'll talk about legendaries first. I don't know which one of you wants to sort of walk me through, even though there's only like 3 legendaries, I guess. I don't want to harp on the fact that, yeah, there's a lot of crap legendaries for Mistweaver, because again, this like disconnect with how these are work or what they should be giving you.
I want to bring up is how soul crushing our legendary ring is.
Oh yeah.
Like Soul of the Grandmaster. Okay, hold on. So you remember the Sisters log I got you weights for? Let's see if I can find a screenshot real fast.
So the Soul of the Grandmaster, I mean, stats aside and whatnot, I'm sure that's fine, but it gives you Mist Wrap, which...
So I just posted my legendary rankings for that sister skill in Discord. If you want to bring it up on stream, it's depressing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, let me see.
I'll wait until like I hear it's on stream because there is a delay. But I do want to explain this a bit to people who don't read the guide. You should read the guide.
Yeah, I'll let Math Boy take this away.
Oh, Math Boy, okay.
Math Boy. So what we're looking at here, what is this?
What this is that it takes the stats and the effect of a legendary item, puts it together, and compares it to the recommended gearing from Peak's guide and Wowhead's guide. I'm 98% certain they're the same. There were some hot fixes that I think I have in the same, but it compares the legendary plus its effect against the mythic item in the recommended gearing list. So Eye of Colitis and Soul of the Grandmaster are compared against, I believe, Seal of the Duumvirate from Kil'jaeden, or which has crit hazed, or Yathay's Thumbring, which is crit verse. Both, I believe, are crit heavy. So with the with crit having higher stat on it, just compared to intellect, even though intellect's not on rings, it's still a huge estimated HPS gain.
Yeah, and having a legendary be a 27, 28k HPS loss over best in slot regular items.
Yeah,
good joke, Blizzard.
It's really weird because I mean, Mist Wrap itself isn't like
it's a 16.67% buff to Enveloping Mist and Soothing Mist on the move, except you have Renewing Mist to cast, and you have Essence Font that can both be cast while moving, interrupting that Soothing Mist channel.
Right.
And Enveloping Mist is predominantly overheal, and in tier 20, it's mostly used to proc the tier 24 set bonus.
Yeah, on that Sister's kill, I had casted EVM 10 times with a overheal of 48.79%.
Mist Wrap to me looks like a relic of a bygone era where you could always, like, a lot more spells started Soothing Mist, and Soothing would always just keep casting, like, regardless, and you would cast spells in and while Soothing Mist was going. And
like
that's sort of, yeah, but that it's just an old. It doesn't seem like that works anymore, and that talent giving it to you for free. Like, if anything, the ring should give you life cycles for free, but maybe that'd be too good. But then it'd be actually be good if it gave you that for free, because then you could take that with Spirit of the Crane. Mistwrap is just, it's a weird ability to give you for free. Yeah, I agree.
We Mistweaver theory crafters in the Peak of Serenity Discord and other servers were hoping that it would have been like Focused Thunder.
Oh.
When these rings were first introduced and didn't have any effects tied to them.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
that did not go in our favor.
So I have the Icy Veins list here, and from like outside looking in, it looks like this is pretty straightforward. I mean, hopefully Suplift isn't wrong, right? Otherwise fired, even though traitor. But
traitor.
But I mean, Velen's Future Sight for every healer is just ridiculous.
It's too good.
But the weird one that I think a lot of people don't like to stomach, for whatever stigma this damn thing has still, is that your second best legendary is basically Magnum Opus.
Yep, and it doesn't ever really change.
Mm-hmm.
Which, there's nothing wrong with that. It's
boring.
It's boring, yeah.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because it's one, good from an HPS perspective, like haha, it pads the meters, but it also keeps you alive, so you can pump out more heals.
You can also save mana.
Exactly. It's just it's rough for other legendaries. It's rough that our other legendaries can't compete with one, its throughput, but also its utility.
And we get questioned in Peak a lot with our legendary rankings, seeing as people don't seem to understand that Prioritization isn't just padding on HPS. It's so hard to die as a Mistweaver at this point with Fort Brew, Prioritization, Diffuse or Dampen, Life Cocoon, because you're not going to use it as a tank cooldown.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I sat there and tanked 4 glaives to the face on Mythic Sisters and didn't die.
Well, I don't know if you want to put that out. I'll edit that out in post. We can.
It's okay. My guild's already flamed me for it.
Oh, fair enough.
But it sucks that our legendaries are in this state. I mean, Boots used to be good with tier 19, but now they're not even good anymore unless you're super on top of using UT procs. Mm-hmm. But half the time, that's out of your control. You know, that's fight dependent.
I will say that 2 of our legendaries, the new Doorway to Nowhere legendary back, and Ithis, which was hugely reworked in, what was it, 715? Both are hugely dependent on your logs. Like, Uplifting Trance being a proc is bad for Ithis, since it works entirely off of Uplifting Trance procs. And then Doorway is on the deck system that was introduced recently, but it's 20% of Essence Font casts, which can be very good or very bad depending on when it procs.
Because going back to the fact that I play a little Mistweaver, and I have bracers and pants, and again, I mostly just fist weave, so like the pants aren't bad for fist weaving, but again, that's not going to work in the higher stuff. But she's of course just a filthy little casual ult. It's not a big deal, but we don't know how the bracers might come into play in the future, but that still only really gives you 4.5 like legendaries that you're like, oh yeah, and that just sucks. I mean, I think everyone sort of has that feel. I mean, I know for myself, for enhancement, I only have 4 that I'm like, okay, these were good, and the rest just kind of sit in my bank. But it's a really egregious problem, I think, with Mistweaver. A lot of these just don't do anything.
Well, what's frustrating about them, I think, is one, like I'd say like 25% of them are just, they feel bad because they're actually worthless and they don't do anything. Then you have other ones that feel okay, but they don't change your gameplay in any way. You know, like you got Shelter Rin, you got Doorway, like not Doorway as much to a degree, but you've got like Rin, and it's like, yeah, that's some great stats on a chest, but it doesn't change how you play really. And then you've got like legendaries that feel really good to play with, like Leggings, but they're not the greatest. Like you're not going to run them over Prioritization and Velen, so we're just in a weird spot with our legendary choices. I didn't
even, before we move on, I have to give a shout out the Unison Spalders. They're Supla put these at 10. I don't know why they're not lower, because this is laughable. Is this a
because-
thing? I didn't realize these existed. I didn't look at all of them before, but
I
what is
mean,
it?
11 and 12 are just even worse.
What?
Yeah. It was funny at the start of Legion. I don't know why, but a lot of the Mistweaver community thought those were our best in slot, and they're just not.
Soothing Mist heals a second injured ally within 15 yards for half of the amount that Soothing Mist heals for. Soothing Mist heals for nothing.
You take an LFR and AFK.
What is that? Yeah, chat legendary. Yeah, what is that? Oh my gosh.
The one interesting thing about it is that if you have Enveloping Mist and you're channeling Soothing Mist onto that target, the Unison Beam also gets that bonus because it's technically half the amount that Soothing Mist
Well, that-
goes for.
Okay.
Honorary mention, too. That has no interaction with Jade Serpent statue.
Yeah, there were a lot of questions about that in
Oh,
Peak,
gosh.
and like people keep asking if, since they have the shoulders, should they run statue? And it's always been no, because there's no interaction between the two.
God, I forgot Statue was a talent ever since 2.5.
And that sucks because
2.5.
if those shoulders worked with statue, it'd be like, oh well, that means that like the statue would be healing the other tank, and if I swap targets, I'd be healing both tanks twice with both Soothing Mists, right? Because it might jump to them hopefully. And you're like, okay, that sounds maybe plausible. That could change your build, but it's so weak. It should be 100%. Even then, we have 5 million HP right now. Soothing Mist ticks for what? Maybe 30k a second or so without the EV buff. That's nothing.
And also,
God, it's funny.
It's you're not doing anything while that's happening.
Yeah,
like that's
exactly.
the real problem with Soothing Mist. Is it would be fine and great if it was just sort of a like old Soothing Mist where you can channel spells instantly while it's going on, but you can't do anything with Soothing Mist.
Yeah.
It's just bad filler.
Yeah.
There's
There's
better filler you can do.
Yeah.
There was some interesting animation bugs that Suplift pointed out on the beta, where you could start channeling Soothing Mist and instantly cast a spell like RSK and keep the Soothing Mist channel.
Huh.
That would make shoulders good.
Yeah, it was working within the latency window, I think.
Oh. Weird. Well, talents then, as sort of a combination of the builds that you can create. Dhaubbs, you want to walk me through like what the El Clasico current like set and forget kind of talents are for Mistweaver, and if there's any wiggle room in any of that?
So the classic sort of set and forget talents would be Mist Wrap, Chi Burst, Chi-Chi, and Nitty. But I'd argue that you don't want to ever take Mist Wrap anymore, just because it depends on you channeling Soothing Mist, which you never want to do, and it also depends on you using Enveloping Mist that it already overheals. So why would you want to buff it?
Oh, is that? I think Is Dhaubbs a robot? Or is that just me? Dhaubbs, come back to us.
Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
I mean, we can hear you. It's just you said it robotic. It was break. Come back to us.
Ruh-roh. Am I beep boop?
You're beep booping. You're beep booping.
It's kind of my end.
Yeah, fine for me.
Well, I guess does someone else want to fill this?
Yeah. So for 15, it's Chi Burst. 30, take Chi Torpedo unless you're Garg for whatever reason.
Take Tiger's List.
45, you take Spirit of the Crane.
Give me one moment. Technical stuff. I think this is my end. I'm going to change our server. All right. Hello?
Hello?
Hello.
I think we're good. I think it might have just been server kerfuffling. So I can do that now with Discord on the back end. If Skype started crapping out, it's like that's the rest of the show. We sound like this now. So
welcome to Discord, way of the future.
Exactly.
Available now on Windows 10.
So Dhaubbs, you can keep going then. You're good.
So now I'd argue that you want to take Spirit of the Crane basically always. We have a ton of open GCDs so that you can get your mana back. It's just more meaningful filler. Manatee, pretty standard. You're always taking Manatee. You're always taking Chi Burst. The only other big shakeup we have this patch now is most of the time you're not really running Chi-Chi, Invoke Chi-Chi. You're running Russian Jadewind. Almost every fight in...
Excuse me? What's that talent called?
You want to take refreshing Jadewind.
Blizzard, why you troll? Okay.
Seriously, why rename it? It's the same move.
Because we're not in a rush, Dhaubbs. We're refreshing.
Oh. I gotcha.
Okay.
So basically every fight in Tomb is built for rushing Jadewind or refreshing Jadewind. It's a hard thing to break.
Yeah.
There are some fights where you'd want to take Chi-Chi. If you can't consistently hit 6 targets with your refreshing Jadewind, then Chi-Chi is obviously the better choice. What's the break? It's like if you can get full.
If you can get full like 6 targets consistently in each RJW, you need at least 1.33 repeating.
Of course.
RJW casts per minute to equal Chi-Chi in 145-second period.
Yeah. On the topic
higher than that, it's better.
On the topic of RJW, I'm gonna bring up 2 points. One, this is crucial to our class and should never be removed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, playing Mystery without RJW is playing an incomplete spec. And point 2, looking on logs, I have 22 casts of Refreshing Jadewind on a 848 fight, and I did 77 million from RJW and 76 million from Essence Fawn. So it's a strong spell.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I mean, it coming back into the fold with the patch, I think that was one of the best like moments that came in. I was making fun of our Mistweaver for it because I was telling him like to do it before it got buffed. Because once the buff came out, I was like, you should just start learning it now. Just prep, right? And it was such a dead heal before, but now it's nice.
It's that it had a high mana cost, low healing from itself, and that it was tied to Essence Font for most of its throughput.
So it's 3.5% base mana now, wasn't it? 6?
It was 5. It was 5. So that it was the 5% RJW and the 8% Essence Font would be about where Warlord's RJW was its, I think, 12.5% mana cost.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's in a good place, and that's good to hear. And because, like Dhaubbs said, you can go back and forth. I wish Jade Serpent statue had a little bit more love, or was still baseline and something else was there because that poor talent. But that sort of happens.
It should honestly be baseline.
Yeah. It doesn't even add that much healing. Like, again, Soothing Mist, because of how they scaled it. What does this even read now? Soothing Mist is 64% spell power every half second. 64% spell power. I mean, that's
reduced by haste.
Yeah, of course. But it just doesn't. It's just how it's scaled. We have like 5 million health right now, and again, it heals for like 30 or 40,000. It just doesn't do anything. It doesn't feel like it, unless you pump so much into it. You get your set bonus in there, and you get your enveloping mist bonus heal. It's meh. It should be just a baseline kind of thing. But
just give Serpent Statue as a glyph so we can see it in battle. On our own. That's it.
Oh, let's not bring up glyphs. There's some soft spots there. But
Red Lightning. That's all you need.
I just want to touch on Manatee, even though it's an old mainstay and hasn't changed basically at all this expansion. We still get a lot of questions about when should I use or Focus Thunder, and when do I use Manatee? If you're in a raid, you're always using Manatee. It's just a better talent. People will come back and say like, well, I'm not having mana problems, so why would I take Manatee? And you're not taking Manatee to save mana, you're taking it to spend mana. During your Manatee window, you're not ever, like if you were to go about your normal rotation and just heal normally and then press Manatee and just keep going like that, then yeah, you'd save mana. But you want to discount as many spells as possible in that Manatee window. And so spending mana while you're Manatee allows you to spend a ton of mana and get all the healing bonus from that while not actually spending as much.
Right.
Take the idea of Wad Manatee and turn it upside down. Like, Wad Manatee was meant to save mana pretty much because you were regenerating what you spent. But now it's just, you pop Manatee, you blow everything, and then you go back to normal rotation, kind of like Arms Warrior with Colossal Smash.
Mm-hmm. There was some side notes on the talent build we had talked about and that came up last night. So like
Fist weaving?
Well, it was fist weaving, or it was secondary stat synergies, right? With like the fact that
yes,
So lack of.
lack of exactly. And we had thrown a couple of those out there in the BTS podcast. I'm plugging the crap out of these things, right? You know what I'm talking about? But
hey, it was a lot of fun.
There's something there again. It's just this disconnect that I don't know why. Because Spirit of the Crane used to be 1% and it was nerfed, and even at that, it still wouldn't be that good. So it'd be fine, but it wouldn't even be like breaking. But there's no, like, I think we talked about how like if you had stacked up your Teachings of the Monastery and you get your 3 blackout kicks in there, why don't blackout kick crits with Spirit of the Crane give double mana return on that crit? Why it doesn't, there's just something, little things that could be there for Mistweaver, just little things
that just aren't.
Yep.
Like, we threw out some pretty cool ideas on the BTS podcast, but it's just, we want something at all.
Right. Yeah, there's no like baseline interaction with stats that there had been in Warlords, where like critical strike gave you more mana T stacks, or multi-strike gave you a chance equal to it for renewing mist to not go on cooldown. There's just nothing in the kit that does that anymore.
Yep. And then I had trinkets listed in here, but I mean, with the stat sheet you guys have in Pika Serenity, there's a trinket tier list. You can go check those out. Of course, it'll be linked. So I'm not going to really, talk about this too in depth. Velens is good, so hopefully you get a Velens, and then
pretty much just throughput trinkets is all you need.
Right.
We don't depend too heavily on mana trinkets because we have Spirit of the Crane to regen mana.
Yep. But I want to get into the nitty gritty, right? So the end of shows now, the end of show segments, basically, they're called the nitty gritty, and it's an open-ended discussion. I have a whole bunch of, canned questions that I have here for the guests that they can all see. We'll bring up a couple of those, but basically, chat, if you have questions now, then toss them up, and we'll kind of go back and forth between these and those for the next, 10 minutes or so. So if you have any questions, now is the time. I titled this The Death of Fist Weaving, so doing damage is more or less gone, which is a little bit too doom and gloomy. Obviously, doing damage is fine. All healers should be doing damage, but we went over this earlier. But the topic that I want to bring out is that when do you find time to do damage in raids? Like, are there on the pull, right? And in that regard, what do you pre-pot? That kind of stuff, like those little nuggets for people that you want to bring up. Garg, you have some stats you guys have figured out. Maybe you can send along to other Mistweavers out there.
Well, if you want to do pure damage, like it's a normal farm and you're bored and you want to get DPS ranks, you want to pre-pot Old War, and you want to go haste heavy, intellect and haste heavy, because that allows more damage per second. With RSK, its cooldown is lowered with haste, and you also get faster Teachings of the Monastery stacks for resets through blackout kicks. But if you're not going for DPS rankings, and you're going for just I want to heal still, you go with prolonged power. It's just so much. It's both damage and healing. It's just, you just can't pass it up with that as a pre-pot. And in the beginning of fights, that's usually when I throw out Rising Sun kicks, so that I actually have my mana regen going to work, instead of just being capped at 100 and doing nothing.
Okay. This is going to be for Harl. You'll start this off. As I'm sitting here, all one on camera, and as you can see, there are all 3 of their characters spread around me. But of course, Salmon Man asks, what race would you say is best for Mistweaver, and why is it Panda? Well, obviously, none of these Mistweavers think that.
Well, I'll ban you in Peak if you're a Panda.
Whoa!
It's okay.
Not called Panda for a reason.
Wow!
He doesn't have banning powers. I do, but
Garg will ban you.
He has a lot of leeway with me. Trust me.
Blood Elf is way too good to pass up. I mean, you have 3% mana on a 2-minute cooldown. You have the crit % increase, and you have the best transmog options. Hello. But yeah, and Blood Elf is just, it's so good. Like, I don't really think anything's close. Panda is close, I suppose, if you don't factor in Arcane Torrent. But Arcane Torrent is why you take the race.
Torrent's also pretty good on Horde side for the crit bonus, the like crit effectiveness bonus.
Yeah.
As far as
alliance with what dwarves have it, I think.
Yeah, as far as
the same, yeah.
The alliance races, it's like what, human and dwarf, right? Yeah, but why would you play that? I don't know. Play Horde.
I'm gonna of course dog on my Mistweaver. Keswick is a Draenei. I mean, the extra heal is a thing, I suppose, and the flat stat is a thing. So is he doing it wrong then?
It's just the flat stat from Intellect has pretty much been outscaled at this point.
Right.
In the
But
expansion.
to be fair, Bay, your Mistweaver is a special Mistweaver.
What's wrong with Keswick? I mean, what's wrong with? Is he? Oh, poor guy. No.
Getting goofed on.
Yeah. But I guess that's a weird question. Northern Man brings it up, but then Trinity was talking about it too. And Garg put it to you. Intellect equals spell power equals attack power.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's where your damage comes from then, right? Is it 1-to-1?
Right.
So
yeah, it's directly 1-to-1. In fact, if you look in the tooltips in like databases, you'll see a fuse is actually like 250% attack power. And that's just so it works with Windwalkers and Brewmasters. But we have a core passive where you can find the aura buff, you can find the buff or nerfs to our damage spells in there. But you can also see one of the effects is attack power equals spell power.
Okay. Yeah, that's sort of a passive that Enhancement Shaman has rolled in baseline too. It was called like mental quickness back in the day when they added it in. It was only like 70% attack power equaled spell power back in the day. Now I think there's just a back end almost 1-to-1, and that's how they balance these healers that do damage but their physical abilities, like again with Mistweaver. So just a 1-to-1-ish kind of deal. That's fine. Of course, it's spell power equals attack power, and then of course versatility slots in there too. So yep. There was how about encounters? And you can talk about heroic in the sense because not everyone's done, and of course Dhaubbs is a little bit more on this. He's working on Mythic Avatar right now. What kind of encounters in Tomb, we'll go around the table here, are you enjoying healing, and what ones are you not enjoying healing? So Dhaubbs, you first.
I hate Avatar. what a miserable, terrible fight.
What are you talking about? It's so good.
So Phase 2 is a lot of fun. What we're doing is we're progging Phase 2 first, so that if we get the good Phase 1, we can parlay that right into a kill, and not just do all this work on Phase 1. But Phase 1 is such an absolute nightmare for Mistweaver because one, you're spread out all the time. You're punished for being in melee because the more melee you have in, the worse the time they're going to have trying to get out for the swirly stuff that he does. I can't even remember what it's called at the moment. And then also just you can't hit anyone with any of your big moves because everyone's all spread out, and it's Also, there's the healing debuffs that go out during Mythic Avatar. It's just what a terrible fight.
So on the flip side, then, what fights have you enjoyed healing?
So Sisters is great. It's basically built for Mistweavers. There's a lot of like ticking damage that goes out. There's also big windows where you can get a revival that's not going to overheal. There's some really satisfying movement that you can do where you get like that moon debuff and you have to swap sides to purge it off. So that's really nice. I think Tomb is actually pretty. There's a lot of fights on Tomb that are basically like really Mistweaver friendly, where you're able to stack up and rush in Jadewind and move around a lot. So
that's good. Harl, what do you have what's your opinion? Or you can compare this to Ridiculous Mythic Plus that you've done. I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, the Mythic Plus God. I think Desolate Host is the worst fight I've ever done in this game.
Oh gosh.
I mean, honestly, the damage pattern is absurd, and it's not that it's hard. It's an easy fight. It's just a bad fight for us, especially.
Oh yeah, when I have to basically bribe the people down there and to stand in the healing range so that I can stand in the middle of the healing range and hit them with Russian Jade Winds. It's a problem.
Yeah,
But you also get punished for doing that because of the chain heals.
Yeah,
the chain damage.
And there's no real downtime to regen mana, so you're burning through mana, hoping that your DPS can get you through it.
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Corporeal side on that fight is pretty much a snooze fest because you have like, yeah, you have some moments of burst when like people eat the knockback from the Templars, but then you have an entire minute of just placing void zones in the correct spot, and so I usually just use that time to regenerate mana and just do some damage.
Okay.
I will say though, my favorite fights are definitely Sisters, and I also like DI a lot.
DI's a lot of fun.
DI, you get super big value from RJW. Same with Sisters.
I definitely agree with Sisters. It's one of my favorite fights. Like, I remember on our prog kill, I still had like 30 seconds after I had died when we got the kill, and I did 1% of the boss's damage, which is pretty significant for a healer. I also pulled. I also got a decent healing parse, which is okay, but it's the fact that the DPS and the healing together made me. It's just one part of the fight that I just love so much about it is that you can do competitive damage for a healer. You can also do amazing HPS.
And Sisters kind of brings something to the table that we were missing in Nighthold, in my opinion. Sisters really allows you to prove how good you are, not only at the game, but at your class. You know, we didn't really have that in Nighthold. Maybe Elisons, you could argue, but Elisons was literally dodge rings, plant yourself, cast EF.
Right. Yeah, there are some winners for sure. It's fun to be in a raid that has been built with Legion being out, because Emerald Nightmare and to an extent TOV, right? Because that was like a hidden, but they worked on it back in the day, and mostly Nighthold. Those were made a year and a half ago, right? Those were made so long ago, and then they started working on the next stuff. But the expansion is out. They got all this new data, and they're building and crafting Tomb of Sargeras with the game being live. And you can tell the differences. Granted, I wish there was more mechanics than, 7 of 9 bosses are soak this. That's a little bit on the, but you can see overall the scope of the encounters are a lot better because they weren't made a year and a half ago when they were working on beta and didn't know how the game would evolve and didn't know how the balance would happen. So that's good. There was a question. I'll tell us at Harl again, because Mythic Plus question. Well, walk me through what kind of a talent build do you see then in Mythic Plus? Because that might be different than a raid build.
Well, it mainly depends on if you're doing a high key with Tyrannical or Fortified. Okay. With Tyrannical, you could argue for Manatee, especially on dungeons, say Eye of Azrar, which is an awful dungeon, or Maw of Souls. Those bosses are difficult for us, honestly, especially the first boss in Maw of Souls, Dark Slash chunks tanks.
Right.
But normally it's you take either Focus Thunder or Rising Thunder, depending on if you like Rising Thunder or not. You take Mist Wrap, take Zen Pulse, and I always take Ring of Peace, but they're all viable. And the idea is you just kind of play Triage Doctor, except you're worse at Triage Doctor than Holy Pally will be, but that's still kind of your same idea. You keep EVM up, you infuse a bit to bring up SG stacks, and you cocoon whenever you can, I guess. And then you have a Blood Death Knight tank, so you never have to heal him.
Wow.
The dream.
Wow. Yeah.
There's also one point I want to bring up in Mythic Plus. Ovid's Winter Wrap, the legendary that every enveloping mystic has a 50% chance to spread the heal buff, is insanely good in Mythic Plus. Because you can get a higher amount of total people in the group with it, and it's actually effective instead of going on someone that's at 98% health and the rest are Druid's Hots tick them up, and it's just a wasted hot.
Like, for example, Corstalax in Korra Arcway on Tyrannical. That fight is so good for Belt.
Well, that's a good way to sort of bring back in a legendary and say that, oh, here's one that actually isn't complete garbaggio. So that's good.
Oh, Cephus is also really good in Mythic Plus. Can proc it all the time, and haste is our main stat in Mythic Plus.
Cephus is good for everyone in Mythic Plus, and more people should just bow to the power of Cephus in Mythic Plus, because anyone can get huge value out of it. Because you're doing so much trash, and especially on fortified weeks, rotating in stuns, and you all getting micro heroisms all the time because you're using cooldowns and prolonged power potions or whatever on trash. Just bow to the power of Cephus is real good. Outside of that, I didn't see any other questions you guys saw. Suki wants to ask a funny question. I don't know.
The Velvival build.
Is that a real thing? Are we talking like crab prot paladin strats coming in here, or is there something?
It's crab pally, but even worse.
Oh gosh.
So Sushi, the amazing Mistweaver that he is, he had 2 builds for a bit going into 725. Velvival was one where you wear the bracers, you take either Focus Thunder or Rising Thunder or something, and the whole point of the build is you get revivals off. And it's a fun build, I'm not gonna lie, I like it. But my favorite build by him is the one where you go full haste mastery with Amalgam's 7th Spine, effuse a ton, envelop a lot, and get a ton of use out of Whispers of Xiao Hao with Shaylin's Gift.
So what's the point of this Velvival? This is the first I've really heard of it. Are you trying to? Is the goal to get Revival's cooldown so that it's a multiple of Velen's cooldown, so that you could like every other Revival Velen's it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Boy, that's silly.
Huh.
What a meme.
That's Sushi.
Well, what's funny about that, and we talked about the Netherlight Crucible earlier, and depending on how that all works out, I wasn't kidding. That the cooldown bonuses on stacking. Now, granted, you have to get a relic that gives you the base reduction, but then there's more cooldown reduction to be had, at least in the current iterations of the Netherlight Crucible upgrades to your relic slots, that on some specs look kind of weird. Because if you could add, I think you can probably get 1 or 2 revival relics, but then if you can add a bonus to that slot on those again, then you'll get 2 more. So you'd have like minus over a minute on the base cooldown of revival plus the bracers. So, I mean, it sounds weird now, but we don't know how Netherlight Crucible is going to work, because there's some crap in that it's dumb, like 3,000 avoidance. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Isn't that over cap?
It is maybe 40%, yeah, or whatever.
I haven't actually looked at anything in the 7.3 PTR except for the tier 21 set, because it's just so much up in the air at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I know Babylonius, he has it implemented into his Windwalker sheet, and I just think he's crazy for doing it this early in PTR development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some wacky stuff right now, and we'll see what actually happens. So that's one thing. But the artifact power grind is back. But if you haven't heard, you can get up to artifact knowledge 50 in the patch, but it's like mana crystals in Hearthstone. You get 1 a week. You don't have to start anything. You're just gotta talk to your dude every week, and then you get another scroll, and it just goes up by 1. No need to talk to him, nothing on the app, nothing like that. But that's happening in 7.3. All the way up to 50 for 10 weeks. So we'll see. I don't know, anything you want to close with real quick? People are talking about the Monk class mount. I mean, besides the fact that Bon Lu talks a lot, he's one of the best, I think. But I don't have him yet.
That is why he's the best. He calls you fat.
That's
I love his voice acting. Voice acting is great.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay.
Is it much further, Grandmaster? God, I love him.
But yeah, in closing, if anyone has any specific questions they need to ask me, my Discord's always open. You can find me on Peak. It's always some weird, stupid name. Like right now, I'm #1 Sombra NA.
Well, that's Harl's closing. Harl just made a Twitter for this show, so you can go bother him on Twitter as well, even though he'll probably forget about it in about a week, so just bother him in Discord.
Hey, I have phone notifications. I'm active.
Oh gosh, you might want to turn. You said that. it's going to be bad for a little bit if you. Well,
blow
I
it.
turn those off. Yeah. So, but Dhaubbs, do you have anything you want to close with?
Not really. Follow me on Twitter, Twitch. Both are just /Dhaubbs. I stream our raids. I'm active on Peak if you ever need someone to look at logs, and help. The Peak of Serenity Discord is a great resource for learning and getting better. And I guess that's it.
You said your name was Dhaubbs, by the way, even though you were supposed to say it was Dhaubbs to throw everyone off. So.
Oh God, I blew it. See you later, guys. I gotta go.
On a side note, though, shout out to everyone in Sauna. So that's like Boss, Suchi, Rake, Mimi, all of them. They're all bad at the game, but whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine. Garg, you got any end sign-offs you want to throw out there?
Follow me on Twitter and Twitch. I'm starting to stream again since I did the math jam with Binkenstein back in February. Both are Garg MW. And for anyone who has questions about the spreadsheet, read the guide. Just read the guide, please.
Wow.
Anything further that isn't explained in the guide, read the guide again and then ask me. Because Harl earlier, he had questions about how to say
No. Let's not bring me into this.
It was all in the guide. All in the guide.
Look, I became friends with Garg for a reason.
Because you read the guide first, and then you read it again after that, and then you like passed like a written exam, like a Scantron, maybe. I don't know. That's gonna do it. I'm gonna hit this button over here. Thank you all very much for tuning. Here's the button. There it is. Thank you all so much for tuning in to episode number 149 of Final Boss TV for Legion's Mistweaver Monks. I almost said Windwalker or Windweaver. Damn it. But next week should be the Method World First interview. So waiting on guest confirmations, and like I said in the middle of the show, the key art, like the shirt design and stuff like that that's coming out, is sort of a standalone sort of thing. And Teutron's working on finishing up that this week, so that'll be coming out later on this week. So if you want to get with that and sort of commemorate the feel or whatever, it's just a design that works. It's not like the Tide ones with all the little faces on it or whatever. After the Method show is Enhancement, and then Brewmaster, and then I'm taking my first like actual vacation to just stream and make videos and go from there. So there'll be no shows for a little bit, but more on that, of course, later. Around the table again, we had Harl. Again, you can follow him on his new Twitter. Go bother him on Discord. And thank you for being on the show today, sir. I appreciate you answering at least 3 questions.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
And there's Dhaubbs or whatever we said his name was backwards, or Thick Dad in Dream Dad. The Dream Dad. Yeah, I hope those get photoshopped. I really do. But you can go follow him on Twitch and go see how Big Dumb Guild does. Thank you for being on the show today, sir. It was a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. It was actually a lot of fun.
And then there's Garg, who hopefully will let the fun continue, whether these guys didn't say anything wrong on the show and not get reprimanded immediately in Discord after this. You can follow him on Twitter at GargMW. But thank you for providing the laundry service for the show today. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure.
I hope that becomes a thing where like doing spreadsheets is called laundry. I want to start something. So what do you do in your community, so-and-so? Oh, I do laundry. Oh, okay. That's very good. Very good, very good. But again, next week, Method show. More details on that later. All I know is that Scott's locked in, but I assume it's going to be Scott, Roger, and someone, as it normally always is. So stay tuned for that. Check out the show on YouTube if you want to watch any of the past episodes. They're all there, or iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. You can go check them all out on the MP3 only versions. Check out the Patreon link down below if you want more podcasts of the BTS unscripted rant fests happen. Those are recorded and put up online for those that want to support the show and keep it going. But until next week, everybody, thank you very much for watching, trusting your Seal of Artifact power, because the grind is back. So now it's not a bad thing. Just keep pushing concordance levels, and I will see you all here next week. All right. Bye. Wait, that's the wrong button. I can't wave, so I'm waving with both hands. Are you guys waving?
Yeah, you best believe it.
Totally.
Bye.
Okay, I don't believe you. All right, everybody.